All right. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to the 30th book club for Wizard and Glass and our bonus episode because it's a 3-episode month. So, that's of course, that always means that not always, but in the last year or so, we've made that a rule to do book clubs. Of course, back in the day, it was much different, back when there was all kinds of crazy shenanigans going on. But that's what we do now. So let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland, to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, and the extended King universe, because all things in Stephen King serve the tower. I mean, we've squinted our eyes hard enough in 2019 to figure out that the Institute was connected to it.
Yep.
So, as well as things like The Shining, things that aren't overtly connected, we find ways. But my name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for the 30th book club for Wizard and Glass. We are now well beyond we are in what would you call it, uncharted waters now for book clubs. So we're getting right to the heat of things too. So I don't know.
Of course, Tad's off to a smashing start here in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, why is that?
Because you put up a poll. I didn't know we had polls.
I just got a pop-up saying that you can throw out polls. So
you're like, I can?
I can't. Yeah, it's like, really? Although it showed me yes and no until votes came in. Now it's showing me only no, but it does show me 67%. So he's got some people on the right track here in the chat.
No.
That's what I like to see. Does it show both to you?
Yeah, it shows both.
Okay.
Can you click on it? Click on it, it expands.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so 33% of the people are right for right now. So that's that's good.
I guess we haven't said what the poll is. The poll is Rip Ermot, yes or no?
Which, of course, the answer is yes.
No,
so I also see some Ermot in the chat. That's great. Thank you, Baraki.
No.
All right, so let's go ahead and hit the intro stuff real quick. First of all, there is no spoiler warning. We will have a spoiler section at the very end, so long as we don't run out of time. But it's because it's one of those topics that's not like crazy in depth, and, but if we have time for it, we can
an observation more than a topic of discussion.
Yeah, for sure. So if you haven't finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, this is a safe episode for you to listen to, unless somehow you are further behind than we are. I mean, I was just thinking about it. So I don't remember when we started doing, it was probably during the course of this book, but now our episodes are 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So with 30, that means we've done at least 60 hours on this book so far.
So far.
Yeah, so far. But then again, I also think that we started this book before we started the other show, which means there was probably some longer episodes back in the day. I think.
We were in Wastelands when we started the other show.
Were we? I don't remember.
I thought we were.
Who knows? Feels like we've been doing this book for, I don't know.
No, we were definitely in Wastelands when we started the other show, because when I left for my sabbatical, you did the first few episodes of Wizard and Glass without me.
Oh, okay. So, I guess, we've done 60 hours pretty much on this book so far, and we're not done yet.
Yeah.
So,
that's kind of cool. I didn't think about that we could, with how long the episode is, we can kind of figure out how long we've been in it.
Yeah. Which is about right for us.
Yeah.
So,
we haven't done 60 hours yet. We still have the next 2 hours to do.
That's true.
We've done 58.
58 hours.
Yeah.
Indeed. So that is your spoiler warning. If you are further behind than that, just wait for this episode until you've breezed by us, which, I don't know. You can't be a slower reader than we are in these book clubs. So next up, if you want to find the show, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, stream us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, or any other podcasting service of your choice. If you could subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we'd appreciate that. And if you want to join us live and vote correctly yes in the poll right now, R.I.P. Ermont, you can join us here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. I'm sure there will be all kinds of fun shenanigans in the polls from now on, now that I have polls. I think I had another option too. Polls and Q&A. So I don't think that's really relevant to us because I feel like we already read the chat enough to where whatever. So I don't think that's necessarily a big deal. But the polls, that's fun stuff. We'll have to remember that. Then on the YouTube side, if you want to join us here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver, you can subscribe, ring the bell for notifications because YouTube will lightning teeth you if you don't say that. Then if you, I guess I could say smash the like button too. Although is that dying now? I don't hear that nearly as much. I'm not a massive YouTube watcher though. So.
No, it's follow is the big one.
But
subscribe and follow.
Smash the like button or subscribe. I remember a couple of years ago that was the big term that people would use.
They're like the video and subscribe is the big thing.
And then next up, if you want to find the show notes, you can do that at darktowerpalaver.com. There's no show notes for this episode, but it is basically the hub at the center of the entire Dark Tower Palaver universe. You can find links for everything over there. If you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. With that, every level of support gives you access to our Discord server where you can chat with us 24/7, as well as you get the monthly hangouts. At the highest level, you get a co-host a show with us. And then if you want to contact the show, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
Best way to reach us is through email. It's show@darktowerpalaver.com. Then you can also find us on our social medias. We got Threads and Instagram. It's Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. We're on Blue Sky. It's at darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. And then we still have our Twitter. It's at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. And then facebook.com/darktowerpalaver is that one. And then check out our merchandise. It's tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver. Get yourself a #TatIsTerrible t-shirt, sticker, pillow, hat, coaster,
slander,
phone case.
Slander.
I'm not going to lie. I looked for a phone case.
Yeah.
They don't make them for my phone.
What do they have, just iPhone?
iPhone and I think they have Galaxy, like Samsung.
Oh, okay.
The two most popular phones on the planet.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Yeah, indeed. So that jumps us on over here. So we are currently, again, we've said this before, but we are in part 3 still. And there are 4 parts to this book. The first part and the fourth part are in our current day. And then parts 2 and 3 have been Roland's story here, showing us the flashback. There are 10 chapters in the 2 middle parts, which means that here in chapter 8, and we're going to cross over into chapter 9 in this one, means that we are fastly approaching the end of Roland's story. I will say shame on Amazon. They screwed up my mojo here. They changed it from at the bottom. It went from page number, which was like crazy high. It doesn't match the actual book page numbers. It went from that to position, and the position, the final position was something like 10 or 11,000 versus I want to say it was like 7,000 was the number that we had before. So I had to redo all of my equations because they changed that on me. So shame on Amazon. But we are currently starting in chapter 8 of part 3, Come Reap, chapter 8, titled Ashes. We've went through 9 subchapters of that. We are jumping into jumping into subchapter 10 here, and it will carry us over into chapter 9 a little bit. So we are, assuming the chapters were equal, which I know they're not, we would be working our way into the 90 percentile for this for Roland's story.
Roland's story. Not the whole story.
No, just Roland's story. So that's we're chugging along here.
Yeah, and last time we had Panic in Magus. We saw Susan dealing with that as well as she had her last confrontation, we're assuming, with her aunt.
I mean, we thought that once before, though.
We did think that once before, so here we are again. There were some ashes.
No, we
hope.
We hope it's the last time we
that's
ever
what
have to
that's
see
what
that
it is.
fucking person.
Don't do. Wait, hold on.
Don't give me hope.
I hope we're done with her. Just all together. I hope we're done. But there were some ashes thrown. There were some harsh words said there. We also had the meeting of the Horsemen by Fran Langell, not the Horsemen's Association, but Fran Langell spoke to the town about what had happened with the boys. The boys are jugged. They're being held. They're not being guarded, though. And everyone went away just kind of disappointed. Reaping's basically canceled. And then Susan goes out to the barquet, right? Like the actual place where Roland and Alan and Cuthbert were, found his guns.
Yeah.
Took them, went into town, met Shimi, and where we left off is she said, I have a plan.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to do. And then it cuts. There's no actual listening to the plan. It's classic,
Now,
all right, so here's how we're going to do this. And then the music swells and you can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
Or it cuts to black.
Yeah, indeed.
So, jumping into Tad.
What?
Oh, that's a good poll. I thought you did another Ermont poll, but yeah, who is worse, Rhea or Cordelia?
That's a pretty good one.
That is a very good one. I'm excited to see what happens, but I'm going to go into subchapter 10 here. So it says 20 minutes later, so this is 20 minutes later after Susan and Shimi got done talking. As the bloated orange moon came up over the buildings like a pregnant woman climbing a steep hill, a lone vaquero led a mule along Hill Street towards the sheriff's office. There was a little light from Green Heart, but even the park, which would have been busy and crowded on any other year, was mostly empty. Almost all the booths were closed, and of the ones that were open, only the fortune tellers was doing any business. Tonight, all fortunes were bad, but they still came, and don't they always? And the image of an empty fair. I've been to the state fair here in Utah several times in my life.
Yeah.
And just the image of that state fairgrounds. Imagine if there was such a tragedy that was canceled.
Yeah.
Except for maybe like one person, one or two booths were open and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's so sad to think about, but it makes sense, right? Like,
yeah,
the mayor and the chancellor were murdered by. Basically, for us, it would be like emissaries from Washington D.C., right? Like visiting dignitaries murdered them.
I'm going to take a word from previous in the series.
Okay.
They were murdered by interlopers.
Interlopers.
The outsiders.
The outsiders.
Good old Sylvia Pittston. We all love her, right?
No. No, we do not, Ted. Just
no. So my note here, it's like the feel of an abandoned theme park or circus. It's just spooky.
Yeah.
There's a spookiness to it, too. But beyond that, the dour tone that we have here, when it should be the height of festivity and celebration, it's a great way for King to really give us the mood, especially because he has basically spent hundreds of pages at this point kind of building us up to what Reap's going to look like. I mean, maybe even more than that, but I know it's certainly been a lot more in the last chunk of time that he's been covering kind of like what reaping looks like and stuff. Like, I don't think he spent like necessarily the whole book because it was so distant when we were way back maybe 3 months ago in their time. But, in this I feel like the last 100 pages or so, King's done a great job of kind of giving us the vibe of what this is supposed to look like. And it kind of makes me wonder, did he know that this is where it was going to turn out? So he's building all of that so that we can now see the juxtaposition of, okay, that's what it was supposed to look like. Now here's what it actually looks like.
Right, exactly. So. And then also we got it in the last time, just to further what Tad's saying. Shimi and Susan met next to the Traveler's Rest, and she asked how it was in there, and he's like, it's bad. They're drinking and not talking.
Yeah.
Like a bar, There's supposed to be a piano player. There's supposed to be cards being played. There's whores. There's supposed to be, flirting and grabbing and pinching and all this stuff. And there's none of that, especially the day before Reap.
Yeah.
Like it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. And like you said, King set this up perfectly.
Yeah. You know what I picture? Who Shot Mr. Burns?
Oh, yeah.
And they're all talking, and it's like, I've been informed that everyone in the audience is, polishing pistols.
Yeah.
It just keeps going around the audience, and everyone's...
Yeah.
That's the vibe we got here.
Exactly. And then my last note here, just about the last line there. It's, tonight all fortunes were bad, but still they came, don't they always? I said, especially with how superstitious these people are, it kind of makes sense that the fortune teller is the only one doing any business at the fair. So
Yeah. I feel like, fortune tellers, because I think when people think that things are bad, they're maybe hoping a fortune teller can give them
a ray of hope.
Other side.
Yeah.
And I think the other ones that always do good when it's things are down is bars.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we saw that the Traveler's Rest was
all of them. We heard about that.
There was other bars
with
too.
Jonas, where he said, after he watched Langill's talk, and he's like, he kind of assumed that most would end up in. He named the other bar.
It was
but
like it was like the seafront bar or something, Overlook bar or something like that.
Overlook.
It was a hotel. Yeah,
Overlook.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely on par for what I would suspect with people.
And so then it says the vaquero was wearing a heavy serape, and if they had breasts of a woman, they were concealed. Also, they wore a sweat-stained sombrero, and if they had a face of a woman, it was also concealed. Low below the brim, their voice sang "Careless Love." And I just stopped here. King's way of telling us that this is Susan is here is brilliant. If it was a woman.
But
if it is a woman.
I love that because that carries in the next chapter too, where King is like playing cheeky a little bit, where it's like he doesn't just overtly say it's Susan.
Yeah.
He like gives you hints, but like,
right.
But it's like,
but we know it is because of the careless love.
But I love the way he's conveying it.
He's
I
like
don't
being
know.
a little coy with it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'll give it to you. Maybe.
Yeah, indeed.
Remember the vaqueros leading a mule. The mule's saddle bags were buried beneath a bundle that couldn't be made out clearly in the deepening shadows. Most amusing, though, was there was 3 hats around its neck, 2 sombreros and a drover's hat. The vac neared the sheriff's office. The singing stopped. The place might have been deserted, but there was a light on in one window. A stuffy sat in the rocker on the porch wearing one of Sheriff Avery's vests and a tin star. No guards were posted, guarding probably the 3 most hated men in Magus. The vac could hear a guitar inside. It was then blotted out by a thin rattle of firecrackers. The vac looked over one shoulder and saw a dim figure who waved. The vaquero nodded and waved back, then tied the mule to the hitching post. The same post Roland and his friends had used when they came to introduce themselves on a summer's day not long ago.
So one thing I just noticed here.
Yeah.
So the stuffy guy outside the sheriff's office has got one of Avery's vests and a tin star.
Mm-hmm.
We know what they're going to do with the stuffy guys.
Yeah.
That seems strange that they would dress it like a sheriff when they're going to burn it.
I mean, all of them have been dressed with,
but I don't,
with old clothes.
Well,
that's what
I think that's very generic for your average person, though.
Mm-hmm.
Versus a sheriff. I feel like there's a weird message, like not necessarily like maybe not for them, but to me, I'm like, if I were like transported into this world, I would suspect like, okay, people just using like old clothes, making it generic, but like to put like a sheriff's vest and like tin star on it, like that would shock me a little bit, just because like, I don't know, because again, ultimately we did find out, what was it, last episode, that essentially this was something in the old days and sometimes still in the wilderness where like this was like a human sacrifice.
And
we
it's
found
like representing that.
Yeah, and we found that's what they're going to do to Roland and the boys as well, and they paint the hands red and stuff. So it's just interesting to me that like a sheriff, like they would convey it as a sheriff and not just use like some of Avery's clothes, but not the vest and the star. I think that's the part that throws me off, where it's like, I don't know. It reminds me like in our
Why
world.
are you dressing this thing that's supposed to symbolize human sacrifice as your sheriff?
Law enforcement. Yeah. It's strange.
I think it comes down to that they are superstitious, and this has become a superstition where they believe that if they don't burn the stuffy guys, bad luck will happen.
Yeah.
So you dress it up as the person who wants to have good luck. So I imagine that
could be
being the sheriff, that's why he's dressed like him, not as one of the deputies or something like that.
Yeah.
I bet the man of the household is who you dress it up as, or the person who wears the pants in the relationship probably is who it gets dressed up as, and everything, so that they have good luck in the foreseeable.
Maybe. David
year.
says, I imagine the sheriff is the one who put it there as a joke.
Could
Which
be.
That's a thought too. I don't know. I don't think I've ever, again, going through this like line by line like we're doing now.
Yeah.
That's something I would have breezed by every other time reading it. But here it's just like it stopped me as you read that, where I'm like, wait. They're dressing that up as a sheriff? That's
isn't that supposed to symbolize human sacrifice? Like,
yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Which is something that really kind of just like went over my head all the other times I've read it. We talked about it in the last episode. It's just like, wait, what?
Yeah, and it still
Like-
happens in the wilderness
Like, wait, what?
sometimes. Yeah.
Whoa. Ooh.
Yeah, David also says, I know it's Careless Love and not Careless Whisper, but Careless Whisper is what gets stuck in my head.
Oh.
And I always have to look it up because I'm not familiar with, like, every time there's a song mentioned in these books, I search it if it's not a song I know, because it's like, is it really a song? Because I feel like early on, before we even, or I think as we did this show, it became clear to me that there's times that songs are referenced and they were actually like real songs. Like, of course, I know the Beatles and like some of the high one, like the high ones, but there's other ones that are just outside of my purview of music that I didn't know are real songs, and I ended up finding that out. I was like, oh shit, really? That's one of our world songs? Like,
I had to look it up with ZZ Top, the song
Velcro
for
Fly,
Velcro
yeah.
Fly. I'm not a huge ZZ Top guy, so I looked it up and I'm like, oh, it is a real song. Okay, listen to that. You know, and everything.
It's got a good bass line and
does
drum.
have a good bass line.
Yeah,
So.
I have it on a number of playlists. So
Makes sense.
Yeah, and then later on in the series, we're going to get an Elton John song, for instance. Like, of course, I know, like, because they say Elton John, and it's like, okay, that's our world. But some of these, they don't tell you the artist. They just tell you the song title. I'm like, oh, it's an invented one he invented for this world. And then down the road, I end up finding out, no, that's a song in our world. I'm like, wait, what? So now when I go through, every time a song gets mentioned, I usually Google it. Like, is this a real song in our world? You know, I don't know. It's just a fun thing. But yeah, my tangent aside there with,
No worries,
with
no worries.
Avery's vest.
It's a good point. I just put my note here. Oh boy, here we go. No guards, but there is someone inside. So the whole Fran saying that they're not being guarded and everything like that. Well, there's someone in there. So
Yeah, and David does clarify that "Careless Love" is not an actual song, or he doesn't think so. But there have been people who have done recordings of it, which, yeah, there's a lot of artists out there that have done some great recordings that were inspired by the songs that King just invented whole cloth.
doesn't Ray Charles have a song called "Careless Love"?
I don't know. Not sure.
According to Google, Bessie Smith has a song called "Careless Love," and then YouTube pops up with Ray Charles singing it.
I think it would be, the question would be, is do the lyrics line up with what King wrote? Because that is a very, I don't want to say generic name, but it's a name that could easily just be whatever. And we actually heard lyrics to it earlier in the book. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just definitely one of those things I do nowadays, though. Anytime a song title pops up in these things, I always look it up to see if it's a real song. Cause,
Oh no, you misread David's message. They've had people do recordings of the Rice song from the 5th book.
yeah, I think they've had people do, like, people have created songs for a number of, like,
Right.
quote unquote fake songs out of this series.
Yeah.
So it definitely happens for sure. So, sorry, did you read your note?
Yeah.
Okay. So also probably our last chance to get this whole clusterfuck back on the rails too.
Yeah, I mean,
like, this.
everything's gone sideways.
Yes, everything has gone Jonas's way. So, all right. So going over to subchapter 11 here. So no one had bothered to lock the door to the sheriff's office, and it slid open as Dave Hollis tried for the 200th time to play the bridge to Captain Mills, "You bastard," which I haven't Googled. And Avery sat back in his rocker with his hands laced together over his paunch, which that just feels like him. I feel like we have such a vision of the kind of person Avery is. Burping, farting, he's just like the biggest, like, bore type guy.
The sheriff from Robin Hood, the Disney cartoon.
Yeah.
That fat, lazy.
Yeah. Wouldn't be the first person, because like I said, I always picture, who's the old hag witch? Is it Sleeping Beauty? I always picture that for Rhea. I've pictured that as the image.
We talked about this Snow White.
Or Snow White, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've done that. You've done that
Well,
before.
because she has the poison apple, doesn't she?
Snow White does, yeah.
Which is why I think of Sleeping Beauty, because I'm like, oh, that's the one that puts her to sleep.
Puts her to sleep.
But if that's not.
Hey, Sleeping Beauty and Snow White both go to sleep, so.
It's been 30-something years since I've watched any of those movies. So.
Baraki says the Stuffy Guys may also double as the world's version of pinatas. Pinatas are often dressed up as people who they think are important / notable. It's not always a bad thing.
Yeah, and that could very well be it. And pinatas is probably a good comp, because ultimately there's a lot of Latin heritage put onto this, onto like Cambry and stuff here. So that could very well be it too. It's just I've never locked onto it before, but yeah, the fact that they dressed it up there does kind of give us a wrinkle to the whole thing, where it's like it's not just like some symbolic thing of just get like almost like NPCs, right? Oh, let's just use generic clothes and do this. No, like they're actually dressing some of them up to actually portray real people or whatever. So, so Cuthbert told Dave that if he kept it up, they wouldn't have to be executed, and they'd kill themselves in self-defense. Oh, I love Cuthbert. As he stood at the door of the cell with his hands wrapped around the bars, which is classic cartoon jail behavior. Avery told him to shut up, as if he was half dozing after a 4-chop dinner. again, that fits him. He also thought about how he'd tell his brother and his brother's, quote, killingly pretty wife about his heroics for the day. He'd be modest, but he'd have to get across the point that he was central to it all. And if not for him, the lads might have. And then it trails off. Cuthbert interrupts his thought by saying, just don't sing. I'll confess to the murder of Arthur Eld himself if you just won't sing. So, good old Cuthbert there. Also, I'm going to pause here and just say that, like, Avery had no part in any of this, right? He was in the back of it all. He was basically like, he didn't even like try to be like, it's not that Eldred put him in the back. Like, he kind of was like holding.
He was happy when friend Lingill took charge.
Yeah. So it's like, he was like cowardly to the whole thing. So, it's just very frustrating that like,
and now here he sits all, oh, I did good. Look at me.
And I'm not saying he's worthless, because like I do think that he is the one that, you know, he did the right thing after the Traveler's Rest. Now, it didn't, of course, solve anything, but he did what he probably should have done to like to quell that down as best as he could, right? I think that his interaction is why both sides went to their respective corners and have basically been playing castles the rest of this book. Because, like, I mean, him with the backing of the town that would support him, but like, so he's not an absolute bumbling idiot by any means. Yeah. But in this arrest earlier today, he was fucking worthless. Yeah. So, Cuthbert is still the MVP, facing death, and he's still the absolute best. Just he's great. And the thing about Avery here, too, is I do not think that he's thinking about lying to his brother and his hot sister-in-law, but I think he actually believes that. Self-delusion is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, I think you're right. Also, what is a 4-chop dinner? Pork chops? That's a lot of food.
Oh, I know.
He doesn't seem at all affected by the events of the last few days, does he? He hasn't lost his appetite.
No.
He's not as affected as, like, the townspeople and stuff like that. And that's just...
And spoiler, a little bit later, we're going to find out it wasn't just 4 pork chops.
No, it was not.
So,
David says, maybe I live too far away from Arkansas, but who in the world fantasizes about their brother's wife? And the sheriff is an evil. He's just lazy. Isn't an evil? Is that what you're trying to say, David? He's not evil. Well, we know he's evil. We know he's a part of the plot. So.
He is.
But he is also worthless.
But I think like, he's further on the scale of like from like Reimer to Hart Thorin. I think he's close to the Hart Thorin side, where he's like kind of involved, but not nearly as like, I don't know. I mean, he is a little bit. He's more involved than the mayor, but like
what he is he's not. Perfect example in my mind. He's not one of the mobsters. But he's one of the crooked cops that gets that palm greased.
Yeah. So he's not innocent by any means. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't.
No worries, David. It's okay.
But I don't feel like he's got the same like nefarious nature to him as the late Kimber Reimer, for instance.
Even if we want to be like serious, like Fran Langill, who you know, or Coral Thorin, who's they've obviously screwed people over and gotten ahead because of this treachery. So
and also Heil Agamorphy, welcome, and comments on the poll question, which we just found out we can do polls. I got a pop-up today that told me I can do it. So David said Snow White is the best that people on the internet got angry about last year for no reason. Did they get mad about the original, or that they were doing the live-action remake?
They got
It feels
mad.
like people freak out about the live-action remakes now just as a standard course.
There was a group that got mad about the live-action remakes, but they also got mad at the actress who was playing Snow White for being just a colossal...
very unlikable.
A colossal Cordelia towards the fans of the original.
Now that's a C word.
There's people
to aim at a woman.
There's people who like the classic. There's people who love the classic Disney stories, and she basically just took a colossal dump all over it. So that's why people hated her and everything.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that they digitally did the dwarfs instead of hiring.
Yeah. No,
live action
for sure.
For live action, so
for sure. Also, to David's point about the sister-in-law thing, I would say there's probably I could think of a few that I've heard over the years where like murders have happened because So I think sister-in-law. I think some people might think sister, but it's really not. It's just who your brother is
married to.
Right. So
if they split up, you could marry her, which. I've heard stories about some of this stuff happening.
Or if your brother is mysteriously murdered and now you're...
Oh, your no, you poor widow. You were my sister-in-law. Here, let me take care of you.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that I've heard many stories of like domestic-type violent stuff where it is like a love triangle with some siblings on either end of it. So,
Agamorphy says lots of issues talking about Snow White. It wasn't that bad of a movie, but the dwarfs were just uncanny valley, which... I don't like Uncanny Valley shit. I hate that shit.
I love it when it's supposed to be there.
No,
like cyborgs and stuff. Like I want to say, I can't remember if it was something in the Alien universe they did where they just had something that was just off, and it was like purposely done, but it was just gives you the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. I don't like that.
So going on here, Alan sat cross-legged on his bunk just left of where Bert stood. Roland laid on his bunk with his hands behind his head looking up at the ceiling. The second the door latch clicked and he swung into a sitting position as if he had been waiting. Dave said that it would be Bridger and put his guitar aside. He could not wait to be relieved. Heath's jokes were the worst, and he could and how could he joke with when he was facing his end, the end of them all tomorrow. Avery, so it's kind of funny there because just a pause to say that it seems like he's kind of disturbed by the continuing existence.
How can you joke when you're going to die tomorrow?
Yeah. Now, of course, I would say that everyone handles things differently. I mean, we've heard stories about that on the battlefield and stuff. Sometimes there's just that dude that is very Cuthbert that will just be joking all the time. It's
gallows humor.
Yeah, and
it literally has a name.
Yeah, and it feels like it's actually like affecting Dave in a way that he's ready to get out.
It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
But for Dave, it's upsetting him.
It does.
So.
Yeah.
Avery said he thought it would be one of them, meaning the big coffin hunters, but it was none of these. It was a cowgirl buried in a serape that was...
Cowboy?
Yeah.
Cowboy.
Isn't that what I said?
You said cowgirl.
I thought I said cowboy.
You did say cowgirl.
Buried in a serape that was too big for him. In fact, the ends dragged on the floor as he came in and shut the door behind him. And the hat came way down to his eyes. Avery thought it looked like someone's idea of a cowboy stuffy. Avery greeted the stranger with a smile because he could take a joke, and this was certainly somebody's idea of a joke. He began to ask the person what business they had, but he was cut off as the hand that closed the door had gone into the serape and came out with a gun that the three prisoners recognized at once. Avery's smile faded, and his hands unlaced from his belly, and his feet that had been propped up on the desk came down, which I don't think up till that point we knew his feet were up on the desk. I mean, that just fits probably what you'd expect with him. Yeah. But that's, I think, the first time that King revealed to us that was his position. He tried to calm the person and ask to talk about this. The Vike told him to get the key off the wall and unlock the cell. The voice was artificially deep. Outside, noticed by none but Roland, firecrackers rattled in a dry popping string. Avery said that he could not do that, and he eased down the bottom drawer of his desk, open with his foot, which is full of guns from this morning's posse. He told the stranger he did not know if the thing was loaded, but he didn't think a trail dog like him, and then was cut off as the stranger pointed the gun at the desk and fired, which was deafening in the small room. Roland thought and had hoped that that with the door closed, it would sound just like another firecracker to anyone outside. Bigger than some, smaller than others. Good girl, but be careful, he thought to himself. So this chapter is doing something again rather rare. This is a new thought. I'm sorry. It's switching between perspectives, which is usually something that we've not really done a lot in King books, even outside of the Dark Tower. He's very good about point of view chapters, and that's where we've seen up to this point, even in these book clubs in the Dark Tower series, there's been times that we've had like single sentence subchapters or a paragraph subchapter. We had very, very short subchapters because the subchapters had jumped back and forth between like Eddie and Roland and Detta's point of view. Yeah. And when some big thing was happening, sometimes you were changing over with only a couple lines spoken because you were basically jumping from one person's point of view to the other. But this one has jumped multiple times now because you first talked about Roland and Alan and Cuthbert in their cells, but then it shifted immediately into their perspective where it started talking about Heath's sense of humor and stuff like that. So it's just interesting because right in the middle of the exact same subchapter, it switched from King telling us from his narrator's perspective, Roland and Alan and Cuthbert, to Heath and Dearborn and stuff like that. So it's interesting. I just pointed out because it is rather rare in King's realm. So
is it just because that thought was in Dave's head?
Yeah, but King doesn't usually.
That's what you're talking. That's what you're talking about.
100%. Yeah,
we usually don't hear Dave's thoughts if we're hearing Roland's thoughts
or an impartial third party, like like the narrator's perspective that is with us and knows like that's Roland, that's not Dearborn type.
I mean, we get that throughout the entire book is that it's still Roland said, but when someone from the town is talking to him, they call him Dearborn or they call him Will. But
when it's monologue,
but it is for us that it says Roland shook Jonas's hand. It doesn't say Dearborn shook Jonas's hand, so that's a clarification I wanted to throw out there.
And when we're in a subchapter that's the point of view of a character in the town, it never says Roland. It says Dearborn, right? So like,
no, it says like if it's from the perspective of someone from the town, it'll be like Jonas thought that he was da-da-da-da, and then Jonas shook Roland's hand. It still calls him Roland. It doesn't ever call him Will or Dearborn when it's not a spoken line from someone from the town.
Well, it depends.
It's the narrator reading that.
It depends on how it's conveying, because if it is literally in the person's head, like it will say, like,
right.
Dearborn entered the room, and
That's,
like that kind of thing. And this one here, we've basically had that now, where the narrator itself has switched perspectives on us, and we've just not seen that hardly at all, where that's happened in a single subchapter. So I don't know. I know that gets kind of technical and like nerdy, but it is interesting to me because like I've noticed over the course of these book clubs, because again, when we're splitting like subchapters and stuff, like there's times that we're like, oh, this is a one line, this is like 7 words long subchapter, but it's because that's when you jumped into Eddie's mind and then immediately you jumped back to Roland's mind in the next subchapter, so you're just like bouncing really fast. Like I was thinking about some of those like
the confrontation on the beach with the third door.
Yes, exactly. Like that final confrontation, like I feel like that was one of them where you were jumping from one to the next very quickly.
Oh yeah, Roland was running down the subway steps, cuts to Eddie. Eddie could see them tumbling out of the surf. Cuts to Detta. She watched him run down the subway steps.
Yes.
Like those are literally 3 different subchapters, and they're that long.
Because it's from their perspective. So, again, nerdy, but it's just interesting because, like, now that we're going slowly through this, I noticed, like, wait a minute, he just changed. It just changed how the narrator was talking to us, because it's now in like Dave's perspective. So kind of cool. I love Roland just chilling, seemingly relaxed, and Cuthbert is acting normal. I wish King would have given us a few sentences here on Alan. I know he's the quiet one, but he is a worrywart also. So I really wonder like what his disposition is here. It just says he's sitting on his bunk, but like, is he fretting? Is like, I feel like you could totally see him like fretting, right? Because not necessarily because I mean, I don't think it's that he doesn't have hope in like their group, but he is the one that he's worried this entire fucking story. So you could just see him being like kind of neurotic a little bit and like, oh my God, we're fucked, like type thing. Whereas Roland's just like do with his fingers on his chest, just laying in there all like chill.
Well, I my note pertains to this. It seems like he's almost meditating because he's sitting cross-legged on the bunk. Like I picture like the hands on his knees and his eyes closed, and he's just kind of suffering through Cuthbert's jokes, just like the rest of them.
Yeah, for sure.
He's not telling him to shut up, though. He's letting Cuthbert deal with the stress his own way. And so maybe my thought is maybe he's just using the touch. Maybe he's reaching out, seeing what's out there, doing what he can, and everything like that. And that's what you're talking about.
I'd love to give me a couple lines.
Give me a line.
Give me a sentence or two where it's like, maybe even that, Alan sensed someone about to enter the, like, where
Alan's eyes opened the second before
something. I will say throughout this story, Alan has got the short end of the stick a number of times here. He certainly has his moments, but nowhere near. There's been a few times where he's kind of disappeared into the background when Roland and Alan or Cuthbert were very much front and center. And I do think that's part of his nature because he is so quiet and whatever. But just this is a moment where I'm like, I would love to know more about where his head's at, because he's such a worrywart that like I could imagine him being like flipping out a little bit right now in a cell, right? So again, with King's style of writing, this keeps it mysterious until the last thought from Roland. But but honestly, King's not really fooling anyone, because no way Susan sends Shimi in with the gun. Right. Like, one, she wouldn't put him in that kind of danger, and two, like I don't know. I just would never see her doing that. That's like a negligence almost if she would have sent him in, right? So, but it's just funny because he plays it cheeky for 2 subchapters now, where it's like,
oh, if it was a woman, the breast would be covered. If it was a woman, her face was hidden by the sombrero.
Yeah.
And then the cowboy walked into the sheriff's office. It's like, he closed the door behind him.
Yeah.
He spoke with an artificially deeper voice. It's like, there's so many hints here that it's that. And then obviously the careless love one in the last subchapter was like the dead giveaway. Like, oh, okay, this is Susan.
Yeah.
And even Roland's thought here, good girl, but be careful.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like the full reveal to where if there were any doubts at all, like it's gone at that point, because like Roland's, calling it whatever. I mean, I guess the gun, but again, the gun doesn't give it away, because if she were to send Shimi in, David says Uncanny Valley sounds like an early 90s TV show / teen drama. It actually does.
Like something out of the Silicon Valley or LA Yeah.
Yeah, I almost picture like the school would look like the remember the Power Rangers like
Yes.
gym thing, like that would be like their main set would
Yep.
be Uncanny Valley's gym
They're
or something.
always for some reason in the gym. Always.
Oh, I love it. And my last note, the firecracker thing always reminds me of Frenchie from The Departed. It's a genius camouflage for
Yeah.
gunfire, and I'm sure it's a real thing that's been used in real life, but like it's always a fun one.
Well, there's always that question when it's not the 4th of July and it's not a firework holiday. You hear something and you're like,
Yeah.
firework or gunshot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope, car backfiring.
Or
Okay.
if you got your neighborhood app and everyone during the whole month of July here in Utah when we have two firework holidays and every fucking post is, was that gunshots? It's like, it's fucking July, you idiot. No, it's not gunshots.
Just stop.
Next up, the bullet struck the corner of the sheriff's roll top and tore a huge splinter. Avery screamed and tilted back and went sprawling, his foot still hooked under the drawer, which now shot out and overturned, spilling 3 ancient guns across the floor. Cuthbert screamed for Susan to look out and said no. No, Dave. In his final moments, Dave's life, it had been duty, not fear of the coffin hunters that drove him. He had hoped to be a sheriff when Avery retired, and he had told his wife that he'd be a better one than old Fatso ever was. He also had no love. Or he had not loved everything about how the boys had been taken, but they were prisoners of the barony, he would not allow them to be taken. He lunged for the cowboy, buried in clothing, meant to tear the gun from his hands, and shot him and shoot him with it if he had to. And that's the end of the subchapter. Love seeing Avery sent to the floor because again, he's just. I feel like it's easy to overlook him in the realm of this book because there's a lot of hateable fucking characters, and he is so far down that list. But everything about him just rubs you. Wrong. He's just a fucking rude, boorish, pig. And I don't mean that in like because he's a cop. I'm just like he is just a boorish pig of a man.
Yeah.
And it just it's like, but he's so far down that list in this book that like we would never, if we did a list of 25 most hated characters in this series, he probably wouldn't even show up as a nomination. But like, if you focus in on this book, you know for sure he'd get at least nominated because he's fucking terrible. So love seeing him fall down. Also, despite none of this being in the plans, Cuthbert knew who it was enough to call out to her. Shows his sharpness again, because theoretically it could be Shimi. So like for the fact that he's immediately able to know that it's Susan. Now again, Alan on the other hand would have used the touch and he should know, but Cuthbert it shows his sharpness.
Also, for Cuthbert to show the care for Dave, saying no, Dave, like like look out, Susan, but no, Dave.
Yeah,
like he knows that Dave isn't in on the plot, and he's not a terrible person. He's not one of these traitors that he knows.
Yeah,
and I just want to notate also, just same with earlier with you reading this section here, the fact that it's duty, not fear, of the coffin hunters that drove him, and he'd hoped to be sheriff after Avery retired. They were prisoners of the barony, wouldn't allow them to be taken. That makes me have a question for you. The mob comes tomorrow night. Does Dave try to stop him and get killed?
I think,
or at least beaten up.
From what we see here, I think it's very possible.
I've never pieced that together.
Of course,
before.
Avery would tell him to stand down and shit.
So but does he follow the orders of the sheriff?
That's
then?
The question. Does he follow the orders, or does he still stand by his conviction?
Or is he just not on duty conveniently at that time because Avery recognizes...
Avery's smart enough to know.
Avery's bad.
He's not dumb.
But he's not dumb, like you said earlier, with defusing the Traveler's Rest thing and everything like that.
Yeah.
So, Reap Night, Dave's off.
Yeah.
He's away from the jail, and then it happens. Yeah. That's how it would have happened if this hadn't happened.
If it were the bum rush from a crowd, for sure.
Right.
But, now that they're going to basically use them as the Reap sacrifices, like that's probably going to be seen as fully legal and good, right? So I don't even think he would resist that if it's like
the town has decided.
This isn't like the town coming to lynch him. It's like the condemnation of like this is their this is what we're gonna do. This is how they pay for their crimes. And I think he would go with that. But if they were just coming to bum rush the jail to fucking just murder them there,
the night before Reap, like if they came tonight, he would stand his ground and defend them.
I think so.
But tomorrow night, if he was there during Reap, he would be like, that's justice.
Yeah, exactly.
That's justice, and that is our ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I like that.
Yeah. I actually feel a bit bad for Dave here. King did a good job of building some empathy for him in this last little bit here. So good on King.
I never felt like a bad motive towards Dave at all. Even with like the earlier times, like when they came and had the lemonade and there was ice in there, and that it was the tea. His wife made the tea, and it's like you humanized him.
Yeah.
You know, and whenever you humanize a character like that, you always have to be worried, especially in a King novel.
Yeah. Yep, indeed. All right, so the next one is mine again. So we shuffled the couple of these a little bit. So subchapter 12, Susan was staring at fresh wood that her shot had revealed in the corner of the sheriff's desk. Forgetting everything in her amazement, so much damage inflicted by a single twitch of the finger. Cuthbert's desperate shout woke her to her position. She shrank back against the wall, avoiding Dave's first swipe, and without thinking, pulled the trigger again. And there was another thunder in the small room, and Dave Hollis, a man who was only 2 years older than her, was flung backward with a smoking hole in his chest. His eyes were wide and unbelieving. His feet struck the guitar and made a thrum nearly as musical as what he was trying to play a few minutes ago. She also called his name and began to apologize. He tried to get up, but collapsed forward on his face. She now saw his back, and while the hole in the front had been small, the one in the back was huge and hideous. She thought guns were supposed to be more merciful and civilized, but it was clearly neither. She apologized again, but Roland shouted for her to look out as Avery moved towards her on hands and knees and grabbed her around the calves and yanked her feet out from under her. She fell onto her butt with a teeth chattering crash, and she was now face to face with Avery, and she could smell the garlic on his breath. That's an interesting thing to throw in there. He cried out that she was a girl, and she fired once more, putting a hole in the ceiling and setting her serape on fire. Avery's hand settled around her throat. Far away, she heard Roland shrieking her name. She would have one last chance, maybe. Her father's voice spoke in her head and says that one was all she needed. And then I got a direct quote from the book here. She cocked Roland's pistol with the side of her thumb, socketed the muzzle deep into the flab hanging from under the underside of the Sheriff Herc Avery's head, and pulled the trigger. The mess was considerable. That is a lovely line. I love
that. Is a line and a half, right?
Yes,
there.
It really is. Woo. And it's so like economical too. Like he didn't have to go into like a large Tolkien-esque like. Nope. It's
description of the bones went here, the brains went here, what they look like, what they smell like.
Just 4 words.
The mess was considerable.
It's so great. So short subchapter, but a lot happening. Again, she's acting like a gunslinger and showing mettle by even doing this. But her getting mesmerized by the gunshot damage of the desk reminds us that she has not been trained her whole life.
Yeah.
Also, Dave, 2 years older than her, so he's 18.
An 18-year-old, yep.
Yeah, that's a kid. I mean, I know we're sounding old now, but that is a kid. So that's...
Yeah, when you're 18, you think you're an adult and you know everything and everything like that. No, you're a kid. You're still a kid.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you. You're still a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
It must have been torture for the boys to have to watch all this without being able to help, especially Roland.
Yeah, especially because they know, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, can you imagine being like, Michael Jordan and your kids playing like Little League basketball? Like, when you know something so well and you've got to watch someone that doesn't know, right? It's like when you're trying to
teach your girlfriend how to play a video game.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there just like...
Or you're at work trying to show a boomer how to do something on the computer, and they're just like, their mouse is like moving in like slow motion when you're like, hey, go up to the top left corner now, and like takes like fucking 30 seconds for them to scroll.
Hit Control-C.
And they have to look at the keyboard for 10 minutes. Yeah, it's insufferable. It really is.
I've watched you do that at work before.
I had hair until that.
That's what happened to Tad's hair.
Yeah. And then again, those last 4 words, just so great. Just so great.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's a line you could use many places in Stephen King's bibliography.
We're just going to get a recording of me or you saying it. The mess was considerable. And just have that as a soundbite for icky goo.
Yeah, indeed. Or yucky, as Hayden would say.
Yucky for Hayden, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Very gelatinous.
Oh, yes. Speaking of gelatinous, subchapter 13 starts off with Avery's head dropped into her lap as heavy as a raw roast. And my note here, it probably looked about the same as a raw roast, too.
Oh, man. So Avery is one that can't hang with all of the hated characters again. But I don't know. This does feel like a brutal way for him to end. It almost feels undeserved. Like, again, I know he's in on the conspiracy. I know he's a very, like, he rubs you the wrong way at every turn. But, like, that, it's like in horror movies, there's, like, a level of, like, brutality that, like, befits. They build characters up to deserve those deaths.
Yeah.
And there's part of me, it's like, Does he really deserve all this?
The perfect example of what Tad's talking about is, if you haven't seen it, go watch Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. There is a character in there who gets exactly what he deserves. Tad knows who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a character at the very beginning who gets what she does not deserve.
No. Or
those two are what you're talking about.
Or the other
the first kill of an individual in Halloween: Curse of Michael Myers, which is Halloween 6, and then the dad. Those two is what Tad's talking about.
Or like in Jurassic World when they have
the assistant getting like all the shit that she gets put through. God, absolutely did not deserve
the way that death happened. You would have like thought they would have like revealed that she was a pedophile and like she had murdered 12 children and like
was putting cigarettes out on them and shit like that.
You'd expect that was the kind of character that got a death that she got.
Yeah,
you should have built all that. So either way, I just feel like it feels a little off balance. I'm not complaining here. Because again, I know he's in on the conspiracy. Yeah. I know that King's done a lot to like lay the track that he is just a fucking disgusting human being. But my God, man. And also, I think if you would have asked me like any time other than being like right here in it, like how he died, I would have said he got shot. I don't think I ever remember that he was decapitated.
Like basically, like his head was just blown off.
Yeah.
I honestly forgot that as well because it's the classic thing when someone lands on top of a character with a weapon.
Yeah.
They get it in the gut.
Yeah.
You shoot him you hear the gunshot, both of them, their eyes go wide. You're like, wait, who got shot? And then the one falls off dead, right? Like that's a classic.
One day
trope,
I would
right?
like to see the good guy die in that though, because
I have
it's always usually so cliche where it's always just like the whole like the one I never want to see on film ever again is the flying vehicle that's like nosediving, falls off the screen, holds a beat for a few and then it comes flying. Like it's been done so many times now.
Yeah.
Don't do it unless you're going to show it fucking crash and kill all the characters. Like it's just it's jumped the shark at this point.
Yeah, so. That's when they jumped the shark. I think there's one in The Walking Dead where they did that.
That feels like a show that would do that.
Like there's a really bad character. He falls on top of someone who has a weapon. You hear the gunshot and the bad character's eyes go all wide. And then
they bait and switch it. It's a good guy.
And then they slowly get up, and the person's shot in the chest. I swear it's in the Walking Dead, but it's been a while since I watched that. So
yeah, yeah, for sure. Brutal. And again, if you would have asked me 3 months ago, how does Avery die? Oh yeah, Susan shoots him.
Shoots him in the stomach. Yeah.
Well, even just and if you would have asked like where, even if I had the vaguest memory, which I probably wouldn't have, then it was the head. I would have just been shot him in the head and he died.
Yeah.
But like his head would have still been attached to said body would have been how I remembered it. So it'll probably stick in my head now. But yes, decapitated with a firearm. So that is that's brutal. So and then David asks off topic. Let's see. How come there aren't any famous slasher villains who explicitly target only men? I think men usually get killed a lot more, mostly because in slashers usually the female. There's always like the
heroine.
Yeah, the last girl standing type thing. So, but yeah, no, it's an interesting thought to have one explicitly target men only. But I think it's because like women are so much better when it comes to fear.
It's Scream Queen for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, indeed.
All right, let's go on here. She could feel a growing heat, and at the bottom edge of her vision was a flicker of yellow fire. Roland shouts to get the water pitcher from the desk for her father's sake. She rolled Avery's head off her and got to her feet. She staggered to the desk with the front of her serape burning. She could smell its charred stench and was grateful she had taken the time to tie her hair behind her. Yeah, that's the last thing we need is for her hair to catch on fire. The pitcher was almost full, but with graff, not with water. She dumped it on herself anyways. And there was a hiss as the liquid hit the flames. She stripped it off the serape.
Real quick pause. I'm glad she's wearing as many layers as she is.
That's true.
I've never thought about that till just now. Yeah. Like catching on fire, that doesn't take long to start burning into your flesh if you were wearing like a riding shirt.
Especially if like it's like the material that like adheres
ponchos
to like melts to your skin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
it's good that she had some layers.
And then it's like I picture like Anakin in episode 3 where they're like picking the pieces out.
Yeah.
Just basically just ripping off chunks of flesh with it.
Yeah. Good fun.
Why didn't they put him out for that? Like, for fuck's sake,
it's like pulling a pepperoni off and all the cheese comes off.
That's exactly what happens. Yeah.
How many skin injuries can we equate to pizza? Too bad Hayden's not in here.
I know, right? We'll have to remember that and text him later. So she stripped off her serape and throws it on the floor. She looked at Dave again. A boy she had grown up with and had kissed behind hookies once upon a time. Roland's voice cuts through the haze and tells her to grab the keys. She grabs the keys and hurries to Roland's cell first, thrusting the keys into the cage into Roland. All around her, the air smelled of gun smoke, burned wood, and blood. Her stomach clenched helplessly with every breath. And this is where I just wanted to pause here. Do you think she's ever seen any kind of violence? Like, let alone someone, not we know she hasn't killed anyone, but let alone seen someone killed? I imagine as the daughter of Pat, she wouldn't have seen much. To go from that to killing 2 men here, it's off the charts.
Yeah.
For her.
And my answer, no, not even close. Maybe seeing a horse put down if it stepped in a gopher hole or something.
Sure.
But that's a far cry from seeing a human killed, let alone doing it. So that's probably the closest violence that she's probably seen is like having to shoot to put a horse down or something. Which Horseman's daughter, like, she
probably done it herself maybe once or twice at least.
Yeah.
But she didn't even see her father die.
Yeah.
Like that happened when he was out.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What's the most violence she's ever seen? Maybe a drunken fight at the Reap Fair.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You
know?
Probably nothing like this. Probably never a decapitation with a revolver.
No, and when you think about it, like, honestly, it's crazy to think for her, because for me and you, if we had to do something like this, it's a little bit different. I mean, look at the movies behind Tad. We've been introduced to violence our whole lives.
Yeah.
You know, movies,
but
television,
I do think
games,
real is much
books, and
different,
everything
though.
like that. Real is very different, but for her, she wouldn't have any context of what a gun could do to a human head.
She was mesmerized by what it did to the desk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that makes me think that maybe she's never seen a gun fired.
Which is fair in this world,
It could
right?
be very possible, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
we're going to find out later in this episode how many guns they think are usable in this town.
Yeah.
So
it's the more and more I'm thinking about it with your note and my note here, man, I don't think that she has any kind of history of violence with her.
No.
Like at all.
Yeah, I would say what do you call it? Aquarian violence maybe would be it, as like the horseman's daughter, but like, so that would be at least a small...
Someone getting kicked by a horse and being dead.
Yeah.
Maybe, but a human on human crime.
Yeah, no.
A human on human act of violence.
Not to mention this grotesque and brutal too.
Yeah.
Like the back of Dave too.
The hole that it left him.
Yeah.
That's why she's talking about that. And she talks about guns here in a little bit. We'll get to there.
So the serape catching fire always reminds me of Godfather 2 when Vito kills the Black Hand with the blanket used to muffle the shot, then it catches on fire.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's one of those weird small details of that
Just
that always
connections.
sticks with me. And then like, so her here at the earth, her shit catching on fire, it always reminds me of that. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm a movie nerd, I know.
I mean, it makes sense. Look behind Tad again. Going on, Roland unlocked his cell and was hugging her roughly. That is when she started to cry. A few seconds later, Cuthbert and Alan were set free as well. Alan said she was an angel. She says that she isn't and starts crying harder. She thrusts the gun to Roland. It felt filthy in her hand, and she never wanted to touch another one. She tells them how she used to play with Dave when they were little and how nice he was. Never a braid puller or a bully. He grew up to be a good one. Now she has ended him, and who will tell his wife? Roland took her in his arms and said she had to do it. If it wasn't Dave, it would have been all three of them. He asked her if she knows it, and she nods and says, Avery she doesn't care about, but Dave.
See? Again, nobody likes Avery.
Nope.
I always imagined them all in the same cell, probably because that's your general Old West movie.
Mm-hmm.
Even small towns in modern day,
Have
you
a
always
big jail
see
cell.
that big jail cell that has like maybe a couple cots in it or whatever. And you can put multiple people in it. So yeah, until it said like she unlocked Roland's door and then went to Cuthbert's, like I was like, oh shit, they're in different cells. Like,
Yeah.
I just not the picture I have in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, especially if you're arresting people for getting into a bar fight. You don't want to put them together.
I'm not saying like it's the only cell. Like maybe they got two big cells to where you could separate.
And then like a drunk take.
And they would have put the three of them in the same one because it's
Yeah.
like whatever, you fuckers are together type thing. I don't know. It's just how I've always pictured it.
Yeah.
So I've never noticed that before.
And then my next note, this is going to haunt Susan. You can see the difference between her and the boys. She is tough, but she's no gunslinger.
Yeah, and then my note, and as she should too. She's not an outsider like these boys. She knew him. She knows his wife. She probably grew up with both of them their entire lives, her entire life at least, because it sounds like they're probably, I mean, if his wife's as old as he is, then they're both older than Susan. So like these are ones that maybe, may have babysitted her at one point. So these are people that she knows the whole thing. Like your wife could speak about this coming from a small town. There's an aspect where everyone knows everyone, and like just there's a nature of it where like that adds to it. The fact that she thought about the wife is huge, I think, because that kind of shows us, especially us that live in bigger places, like there's not a randomness here. There's no strangers. Also, she had not been trained her entire life to kill. I keep going back to that, but like with our boys, like they've been trained. I think we both assume the training starts about the time they could stand.
Well, look at how the three of them reacted to Roland's test against Court.
Yeah.
None of them flinched. None of them were like, "Oh my God, look at Court! Oh, the blood!" They weren't panicking in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And what we talked about earlier comes back here is that this might be the only violence that Susan has realistically experienced human on human.
Yeah.
In her entire life.
Yeah.
She might have seen someone get mauled by a cougar, a wildcat or something.
Yeah. But then to know him, so because the other thing is like
the fact that she knows
let's say it's an older person, even like I think there's a disconnect there. But when you're so close in age, like. Again, she's probably been in classrooms with them together at the same time. Like she knows, and they may have babysat her, like her and the wife. So it's like there's just this layer to it where it's like it's not in our world where like someone owns a gun and someone breaks into their house to do harm and they shoot the person and that could still wreck a person.
Yeah,
but that's a stranger. They don't know who that person is, right?
Yeah, in a small town when it's someone breaking in and you shoot them and you're like, oh my God, that was Bob.
Yeah,
I know Bob.
Yeah, exactly. Also, most of what she's remembering about Dave shows that he was not a bad person.
Not at all.
So I think, again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. He's not really a bad person. I think that's a cool thing for King to do because, I don't know, I think it'd be almost easier just to let all this play out and they're all just mustache twirling, farce and supporters.
The black hats, yeah.
So, yeah. To have one that, and I think of it like Tombstone was that way. You got a couple of the people that end up aligned with the Cowboys that are not bad people. They truly want law and order.
Well, even I think it's the deputy in Tombstone where they kill the actor and he's like, I'm done with you guys. And he's just like, fuck you guys. Like, you pieces of shit.
Yeah. Well, there's like the younger one too. Like all they ever did is make fun of him.
The one that ends up going to meet the Cowboys later and they kill.
No, that's not McMaster's. I'm talking
McMaster's.
like like he looks younger and stuff, and like at one point, like he gets mad at him. Those guys you killed are my friends. Like all they ever did is made fun of him.
Yeah,
like that guy.
The
like
deputy. It's the deputy.
He's a smaller guy. But it's like ultimately at the end when shit starts going like wild, like he pulls out from it. He's like, this isn't what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be about fucking law and order.
It's when they kill the actor. He sees him in the coach, and he's like, oh my God. Like,
yeah.
Like,
He's
like, oh my God. Like I can't be a part of this anymore.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Look at this. They killed something so beautiful because he loved the actor's performance and everything.
Yeah. So like that guy, I feel like Dave is
that is a perfect example of what Dave was like. Yeah.
Exactly. That's probably now what I'm going to picture Dave as the rest of my life now. Is that
probably,
actor for Tombstone.
So going on, Roland says someone might have recognized.
Oh, hi, Hato.
Oh, Hato's here.
You missed some grotesque things here where you just missed someone getting decapitated with the pistol here a second ago, and another person getting shot through the chest. It was a small hole here and a very, very grotesque hole through the back. So,
and then we talked about people getting burned and clothes sticking to their skin, and when you peel it off, it's like pepperoni pulling off cheese off of the pizza. So, I'm honestly shocked that he's still here. I expected to see Bye in the chat and him just be gone. So going on, Roland says someone might have recognized the gunshots for what they really are and asks if Shimi was tossing the firecrackers. She nods and says she has hats and serapes for them. She went to the door looking both ways, like peeking out looking both ways, and then went out to grab the clothes. Cuthbert took the burnt serape and covered Dave's face. He says tough luck and that he was caught between and that Dave wasn't so bad. So again, just further reiterating that Dave wasn't that that bad of a guy.
Yeah.
King seems to be driving this home.
Versus, like, the mayor.
Right.
It's not one of us here that didn't cheer the fuck out of seeing that guy die.
It's like, oh,
how he traded his wife, how he was attacking Susan, the fact he was marrying a 16-year-old as a 60-something-year-old. Like, everything about that guy was just the worst. Like, you want to see his head explode.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
You wanted to see his skin pulled off like pepperoni pulling cheese off a pizza.
Or like Halloween 6.
Yes.
I want to see his head blow up like that. It's not possible in this world because there's no electricity like that. But if we're going to get that for anyone in this, but well, never mind.
I mean,
there's a few other people much higher on that list in this.
Yes.
In this story, like Cordelia, that's holding a 71% lead in the poll there, which makes me think, man, if we reevaluate, we're never going to undo the March Insanity for 2019. Yeah. But I would like at the end of this story to like just have like a discussion. Maybe it's in a round table because like I don't know if we'll have time with whatever you have left of the last book clubs.
Yeah.
But I do want to have just a re-examination of like now having freshly read this book, Cordelia versus Rhea, because that was our finals in 19, and Rhea won, and if I remember right, she won it handily. And I think that's a lack of memory, man, because Cordelia, even with what we've seen up to this point, she's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
She is the goddamn worst. I would vote different. I voted
recount?
I know I voted for Rhea, but like, there's just part of me, I think, since that, even before reading this, like, there's an element of like, Rhea's a witch. She's supposed to be that way. Cordelia is not a witch. She is this girl's fucking only living relative. Yeah. You should be the one protecting her.
I'm going to say one thing on this, and then we're going to move on because I don't want to get too far into it. But I think this is where we're going to have... I think we've decided on this episode that you're going to be pro Cordelia, and I'm going to be pro Rhea, because I will say, devil's advocate, I think I agree with you. I think that the reason why Rhea ranks so high among people, especially Dark Tower fans, is because of...
Well, be careful now.
Because of what happens. So that's why I'm saying
we're
going to stop here because I don't want to get further into this because there is no spoilers.
I totally get it, but I do think that like the hatred for Cordelia you could lose as you move away from the book, and it gets a little bit more distant from your last read. And I really wonder if March Insanity came at a time where it like Rhea is just she is the core of you hate her. And maybe it's harder to forget the hatred for her. But yeah, I don't know. I can't wait to have that conversation. And now with the poll function, that's a lot of fun. You know, for the live chat, we could have people voting. So that's fun.
I am writing down a note real fast about what I was about to say because you're right. We do not want to spoil it. So.
Yeah, there's no way you could have finished that sentence truly in this setting.
And that's Thank you for catching me on that. I appreciate that, Ted. Okay. I got that note written down. Now we can move on with where we were. Susan comes back in with the clothes. Shimi had already set off for the next errand without having to be told. If he was a half-wit, she knew people who were running on quarters and eights, and I do too.
Yeah.
Tad does as well.
Yeah.
Alan asked where she got all this stuff. She said that she got it from the Traveler's Rest. They donned the disguises and Alan asked where they're going to go. They stepped out onto the porch, and the street was still dark and deserted. Susan answers and says, Hookies to start. It's where their horses are being kept. They went down the street together. Shimi had taken Cappy with him. Susan's heart is racing, feels sweat on her brow, but still she is cold. She doesn't know if what she did is murder, but she had ended 2 lives this evening, crossing a line that could never be recrossed in the other direction, and she had done it all for Roland, for her love. Simply knowing that she could have done no different offered her some consolation. Cordelia's voice rang in her head, saying, and quote here directly from the book, Be happy together, ye faithless, ye cousiners, ye murderers. I curse thee with the ashes. Susan seized Roland's hand, and he squeezed. She squeezed back. She looks up at the demon moon, which, with its wicked face now draining from red, orange to silver. She thought that when she pulled the trigger on poor Dave Hollis, she had paid with the dearest currency of all. She had paid with her soul. If Roland left her now, her aunt's curse would be fulfilled, for only ashes would remain.
And what about King, man? That isn't even the end of the subchapter. That's the end of the chapter. So
yeah.
King and his fucking last lines, man. He's brutal. So even Bird is seeing Dave as one that was not so bad. Yeah. Again, that just adds context to it that, like, in the course of the 3 months that these boys have been here, like, you know, at least Cuthbert has taken a liking to Dave in a way. Yeah. So, and fully knowing for a good chunk of that 3 months about the conspiracy and that, you know, not, so it makes me think that he probably they've probably come to a spot where they probably don't realize, or they don't think that Dave is like a full part of this conspiracy either. So, also Shimi, man, he is an MVP in all of this.
Yeah.
Like
him and Susan, man.
Yeah.
They make a great team.
Yeah.
I said, no, King, don't you dare let Roland leave her. Like, he says that line, and there's so many times where he says shit like that, and it's just like, that's the last time they ever spoke. And it's like, oh yeah, because they went their separate ways and they both lived happily ever after.
Right.
No,
right, King, right?
Yeah.
And he knows what he's doing too. We're all familiar with the bastard Roland would become because of the first 3 books here.
Exactly.
And his worry and warnings before telling the story to the Ch8 echoes in my head. We're probably going to not like Roland's actions the rest of the way. We've had enough context clues from he stressed for days over telling the Ch8, and like we saw internally where Roland's like, this could be it. Like this could break.
They could turn away from it.
This could be a forsaking. I'm trying to remember. There's a Simpsons one where they're like, it's like an AA type thing, and it's like they're all, oh, there's no judgment here, and then Homer gives some heinous ass thing like, oh, I went under a bleacher and drank some dripped beer because I was so hard up, and we cast you out.
Yeah.
That's what Roland's fearing from his Ch8. So I feel like with all of that context that we've got to remember was before this story, we got to know this story's not going to end well, and it's probably maybe not going to make, because Roland's also said I'm kind of a bastard. There's a lot of stories that I can tell you. This one's going to kind of fill in for all of them. Yeah. So we also know that Roland's part in this is not going to be happy-go-lucky, white hat, perfect hero. Just because of because the Thinny threw him into that whole funk, and then it spent days of them okay, you gonna tell us now? And he's like, I can't right now.
Not yet.
And he just he had to circle himself up, and then we saw the internal where he's like, I'm worried about telling them, and so you have every right to think that, especially when you bring the context of the first part of this book in. It's oh man, and we're getting to the heat of it here, man. Like I said, we're jumping into chapter 9. There's only 10 chapters left of 10 chapters total in this part, and this part is the end of Roland's story. So we've got two more full chapters to cover, and then we are back in Kansas for the rest of the book.
Homer refused to give his dad a kidney. That's what it was.
I swear it was an AA one, because it was an alcohol thing, and it was something really fucking bad, like pathetic, like that, where oh, I drank some beer off the floor of a whatever. Because I remember that one too, David. I do know what you're talking about, because there's one where he's judged pretty harshly there. But the whole joke with that one was it was like AA, and it was oh, there's no judgment here.
Homer is arrested. I googled Homer Simpson thrown out of AA meeting. Homer is arrested, loses his license, and is ordered by a judge to attend traffic school and Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. However, during one meeting, Homer mentions that he ate dirt from the football stadium to fight his urge to drink, which causes a furious Reverend Lovejoy to expel him from the group.
Okay, so I wasn't far, but I know what David's right too. Though there is the one, because that's one of the most vile of the episodes I saw. They made Homer because he ends up running from the hospital and shit, and Grandpa's dying and needs the kidney transplant. So it's a pretty terrible episode for Homer. So all right, so jumping over to chapter 9, which is titled Reaping. So because the other thing we got to remember too is we are the day before Reap. Everything we've been seeing
we're hours now,
because we started even before dawn of the day before, Reap Eve, call it. And that's basically been what we've been covering the last couple episodes, is that fucking day, which has been absolute, and we're still in it, but we're now getting close to the
moon's rising, it's nighttime. It's definitely the wee hours of the morning almost, it's the tail end of Reap Eve.
The sands in the hourglass don't have many more grains left before it's all down the drain here. So starting with subchapter 1 here. So as they entered the stables, a shadow moved, and Roland, now wearing his belts, drew both of his guns. It was Shimi. Shimi lit with happiness at seeing them and ran towards them. Roland holstered his guns and made ready for the embrace, but Shimi ran right by him and right into the arms of Cuthbert. He lifted Shimi in a hug and told him that he was going to knock him over. Shimi said that he knew Susan would get them out, and he looked over to her, and she was still pale, but more composed. He turned back and kissed Cuthbert's forehead. Bert asked what that was for, and Shimi said because he loved him and that he had saved his life. Bert laughed embarrassedly and said that if they didn't hurry, it would not be saved for long. So we can only count on one hand how many times we've seen Roland wearing his guns, pretty much here and when they confronted Rhea, right? So it's a big, I know that first one was big, and King even spent some time saying it was a big moment for both boys that went up there.
Riding out wearing
them. And it's
not just Roland, but Cuthbert as well.
Yeah, so now Roland wearing them, it's okay, this is the first time outside of that it's and now it's because we all kind of know what's the plan's word, where it's like shit's gonna be going down here.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see him wearing the guns.
And last time he wore the guns, he did the world a favor by killing Ermont. So that's definitely.
Good night, sweet prince.
No, none of that. No. But it's definitely going to be a moment with some epic music when it gets to the screen, because like I would love to see Roland strap on the guns.
Yeah,
is what I'm talking
for the
about.
first one, I think especially.
I think here is where you the first one you do music, you just show them riding out together. But I think this is where Roland's going to strap on the guns and he's going to do work. They were going to Ria's to intimidate. Here, work's about to get happen.
Yeah.
And then he draws them. Like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
I'm getting like goosebumps, like chills, like thinking about seeing that on screen. That's what I'm saying. There needs to be some epic music.
Yeah. The Shimi and Cuthbert stuff is great. I especially love it that Cuthbert, I love that it was Cuthbert who saved him. I feel like a worse way to have done it would have made it be Roland. Make it your main character be the big hero that saved this character. And I think it just added so much throughout the story to Cuthbert that it was him that stood up in that whole thing. So I just love that because, again, King's so good at doing that where he doesn't, like, go the obvious route. Like, I guess just growing up, like, watching, like, shit from, like, the 70s and 80s and even some of the shit we watched in the 90s, it was all so cookie cutter where it's like it would always be your main hero that would step up in those big moments and stuff. I think modern media is a lot better at it, but, King was writing this back in the 90s, so King was, again, he was doing it better than what maybe mass media was doing.
It's always Indiana Jones who saves someone. It's never Short Round or
unless it's saving Indiana Jones.
Well, yeah, if someone's saving Indiana Jones, obviously.
Yeah,
but it's never Indiana Jones Sr. That's his dad. It's never
Henry Jones Jr.
Henry Jones Jr.
So Henry Jones. Yeah.
I just spaced on John Wright Davis.
Sala.
It's never Sala that saves Henry. It's never Sala who saves the girl, or
just Indy with the.
It's always
bad
Indy.
Dates.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like so. You're right to see Cuthbert do it. It is actually it's cool. It is a change of pace,
and I feel like it's cool because it added a lot to Cuthbert. Not that we don't love him anyway, but it adds more to him. So Shimi said all their horses are all saddled, and Susan told him, Susan had told him to do it, and he did it right. But Richard Stockworth's stirrups still needed to be put on, and they were nearly worn through. Alan said that was a job for later, and turned to Roland and asked where they needed to go. Roland's first thought was Thorin's mausoleum, and Shimi reacted in absolute horror, going to the graveyard with Demon Moon full, and he shook his head so violently that his sombrero came off, and he said that they are all dead there, and if they tease them during the time of the demon, they are apt to get up and walk, which that's a fun thought. Susan added that it would not work. The women would be filling the mausoleums with flowers, and they would likely run into Olive or Coral, neither of which they wanted to run into, especially with these boys.
Facts.
Roland acquiesced and told Susan and Shimi to think they needed somewhere to hide until dawn, which, again, dawn would be for Reap Day. So
yes.
the ticking clock is nearly done.
Yes.
And somewhere that they could get to in an hour, and off the Great Road in any direction but northwest. And Alan asks, why not northwest? And I have a direct quote here, and this is the end of the subchapter. Again, it's weird how many times we use the direct quotes at the end of the subchapter, because, again, King does so fucking great with that last bit of the subchapter. Quote, because that's where we're going now. We got a job to do, and we're going to let them know we're doing it. Eldred Jonas most of all. He offered a thin blade of a smile. I want him to know the game. I want him to know the game's over. No more castles. The real gunslingers are here. Let's see if he can deal with them. I mean, just come on, man. Come on. Just so good. I love Shimi's reaction to going to the graveyard during Demon Moon. I wonder if the trauma of going up to Ria is still fresh in his mind.
Absolutely.
Because, that was...
Shimi's very superstitious, so absolutely.
Yeah, and like, ultimately, he's got the mind of a child, and children are how much more. I mean, this is, you mentioned earlier.
Go down to the basement and get me a frozen lasagna out of the freezer. What? The basement?
Yeah.
I've been down there with you 150 times this week. What are you worried about? But this time there's going to be a monster down there.
Yeah, there's a monster down there. So Hayden says, on a side note regarding music, what are your thoughts on having popular rock or charted type songs in the show compared to composed orchestral music for the show? I mean, I think that if they are able to get rights, there's a number of popular songs that will have to show up. We've got at least one ZZ Top song. They're probably not going to be able to afford putting the Beatles song in there, so we probably won't have Saloon in the first book singing Hey Jude, unfortunately. But I think there'll have to be a good mix of popular music.
There'll be something replacing Hey Jude that'll be just equally as watch them get Elton John.
Yeah.
To replace it,
something for sure. But I do think there will be a mix for sure. I think it'll be more orchestral overall, but I do think there's a lot of space for pop music in this.
He also says, like to that scene Peter mentioned, I'd love to hear Led Zeppelin's When the Levee Breaks or something similar with a slow-mo type sequence. I picture an orchestra there when he's strapping on his guns.
And if they can afford Led Zeppelin too.
Yeah,
they are getting better in the last 5 or 10 years, but for the longest time, you could count on one hand how many movies had Led Zeppelin because they just did not license their music. Yeah. So,
I don't think that you do a lot of popular music for the Dark Tower, especially Wizard and Glass. It would feel too much like A Knight's Tale. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah, one time.
The very beginning of it, where they're all doing "We Will Rock You" by Queen, it's so off-putting for me. It's just like, wait. What? This is the Middle Ages and they're doing "We Will Rock You." Like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, wasn't there one where it was there was historic, but they did hip hop?
Yes.
So yeah.
Also,
David says that there demons and shit do exist in this universe.
Literally, my next note.
I was about to say that's actually a good point. So maybe Shimi isn't childlike to be afraid.
Literally, my next note. Because you have your note, then my note. Go ahead.
Also, he talks about the dead rising. I would say that's just childish fear, but then again, in this world, who the fuck knows? We've already seen speaking demons. We've already seen the succubus. We've already seen...
Literally, my note. We have seen demons, mutants, and travelers from other worlds. You are not wrong.
Yeah.
So, same with David. You're not wrong. There's been some pretty fucked up shit in this world.
I mean, our world, it's safe. I keep telling Hayden we should take an Ouija board out to the Salt Lake Cemetery.
Exactly.
In the middle of the
There's
night.
nothing that has ever happened in a cemetery.
It'd be all good fun for sure.
In movies, yes, of course. In books, of course.
We also lived near a graveyard about a decade ago, Hayden and I.
Yeah.
So that was
the thing is that in the real world, nothing bad ever happens in a cemetery.
Yeah, indeed. Do you think the flowers are funeral stuff for the murdered politicians, or is it part of Reap stuff? Or it could be either. I guess it could be either. I don't think there's a right answer. Yeah. But when they say the women are doing that, do you interpret that as it's because of the upcoming mourning of the two, or do you think it's more is that part of the Reap festivities where it's because what is it, Memorial Day, where everyone goes and decorates the cemeteries? It could be part of Reap too, because Reap has so much to do with death and rebirth and shit. I wonder if that becomes a thing where they're this is when they remember their dead as well, right?
The line about running into Coral and Olive makes me think that it's for the funerals.
It could be,
because that the women would be down there preparing the mausoleums, not decorating the graves, but preparing the mausoleums. Reimer and Thorin are going to be buried in mausoleums.
Yeah.
Buried.
Yeah.
They're going to be laid to rest in mausoleums. And the fact that Coral and Olive are mentioned by names, I lean that way.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from, but also if we're comparing Reap to Harvest with us, here in
Halloween, Thanksgiving, it's a merging of the
Harvest
two.
Harvest is separate from Day of the Dead and Halloween. Those are two separate holidays when you look at it in our world. They've kind of combined it here into one, so it's maybe I could see that, but when they mention Coral and Olive like that and the fact that they're preparing mausoleums, I lean that way.
Yeah, could very well be. I think it could be both, but yeah, it's one of those things that hit me where I'm I wonder if that's just the funerals or if that's just part of their festivities. I mean, this is a pretty complex holiday that King has built up here. So,
and the fact that they have it where it's only the women, again, that just feels like prep for a funeral.
But I think there's some stuff in literature and stuff in the Bible. It's the women that prepare Jesus's body,
right?
So I do think there's
that's what I'm saying is going along with laying someone to rest.
But it could also be a thing with they're the ones that would for one, they'd probably have a better eye for what flowers to put on graves and stuff.
Sure.
Whereas the men
than a farmer or a rancher would.
Yeah, and also especially because the farmers and ranchers are in the middle of Reap right now, right? It's the last days of Reap, so it's they would be busy. The women could then go and I don't know. It could go either way. It's just a fun question because I've never thought about it before. And then running into one of the Thorin women, that would not be great for these boys.
Yeah, no, it would not.
And then that last bit from Roland, let's fucking go.
Oh, yeah.
Just
absolutely. Absolutely.
It's been a fucking cagey-ass game back and forth this whole fucking book, and now it's time to just start fucking, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And my last note here for this subchapter is lesser men would cut and run at this point. Oh, God, we escaped prison. Quick, let's get the fuck out of here as fast as we can. Roland's like, nah.
And these are 14-year-olds.
Now we're going to put them in their fucking place.
Yeah, and these are 14-year-olds, too.
Yep.
So more so, you say lesser men. Okay, any child should be fucking running from this, right? Like, get out with your skin intact.
They don't know that they've escaped. You have a head start. Get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah, you could be halfway home by the time they realize that you're gone type thing. So, yeah,
exactly.
Indeed.
So now we're going into subchapter 2, and then we're doing one more subchapter after this, right?
Yep.
3 is where we end? Okay.
Yep. But these last two are
pretty lengthy.
They're both very long. That's the reason we jumbled it earlier, because it would have fallen in a way to where, like, one would have had a lot of long subchapters and one would have had all the short ones.
Yeah.
So...
So subchapter 2, an hour later, Roland's quartet arrived at Citgo. They had rolled parallel to the Great Road so they wouldn't meet anyone, but they had seen no riders going in either direction. It is as if reaping had been canceled this year, Susan thought. Then she thought of all the red-handed, stuffy guys and shivered. They would have painted Roland's hands red tomorrow night and still would if they were caught. Not just him either. All of us. She, me too, she thinks.
Yeah, now they've thrown into the point where, like, she's as fucked as they are if this goes wrong, and so is Shimi. So, like,
if they're caught with them after seeing that Dave and
happened?
Sheriff Avery are dead, obviously they helped them escape.
Yeah,
so,
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to go along with that, my note, nice happy thoughts there, Susan. Not dire at all.
Yeah, indeed. Again, King did such a good job of building us up to what Reap should be like, so this vibe just feels haunting. It echoes for me the images we have of busy places during the early days of lockdowns, like the Las Vegas Strip or Times Square that were absolutely empty.
We talked about that. Yeah, we
like
talked about that a couple
it was just haunting.
ago. Yeah.
Right? It was just haunting, and like that's what this feels like. Because again, King built it up to us what this is going to look like. There's going to be booze, festivals, people are going to be partying all night. Like it's going to be this.
There's
whole
a rash
fucking...
of babies born 9 months later. Like fornication is stopped
until Reap.
Until Reap, and then boom, baby boom, and everything like that. So the kids aren't sleeping. The parents aren't sleeping. All of them are not sleeping. It's like Christmas, Halloween, and Thanksgiving all rolled into one.
Yeah. So all that to say, it kind of gives that spooky vibe that I remember seeing back in, what was it, the first like 4 or 5 months of 2020? Because it was like, February-ish.
It's like
when things shut
March
down.
was the real, February is when we got word of it because it was right after the Super Bowl. And then March was the shutdown because that's when I got my laptop from my work at the time because we were working separate jobs then. And I got sent home and I had to work from home then. And then
so call like
April, May, June were the 3 months where it was just like you could see pictures of the Strip and there was no one there.
Yeah. Yeah, the lights were off in Vegas.
Yep.
Like, wild.
Like, that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. So that's what this reminds me of. And I think, again, credit to King because he wrote it in a way to where we have an expectation for what this world's festival should look like. He's done a great job of painting it. So now to not see it that way it's startling. It's as startling to us as it is to Susan.
Yeah. They left the horses and the mule behind, tied to some long-dead pumping equipment, and walked slowly toward the working derricks. They spoke in whispers, if they spoke at all. Roland doubted this was necessary, but here it seemed natural to whisper. To him, Citgo was far spookier than the graveyard had been. While he doubted the dead awoke in the graveyard under Demon Moon, there were some very unquiet corpses here, squalling zombies that stood rusty in the moonlight.
Now, I will say there, he doubted the dead woke. That leaves...
Not that he knew.
Yeah, he doesn't know the dead won't rise.
This is true.
Let's see. Sorry, one other thing hit me, but now I'm forgetting. At one point earlier on, I think it was before the arrest, though, Jonas basically put maybe some of the lesser people, but he put them on guard at Citgo.
Yes.
So after the arrest, he must have pulled them. Mm-hmm. So again, Jonas...
He thinks that they're judged.
I know, but at the same time, man,
you're
underestimating, because it wasn't even like he was putting top guys there. He was like, put some dipshits out there, just someone that can shoot some fucking shots in the air to like call everyone out there if something were to happen. You can't tell me.
But the real guards were at Hanging Rock with the tankers.
Yes, but you were telling me you couldn't leave those fucking dipshits out there, even though the boys are captured. Like, again, it's underestimating him, man.
Yep.
He's fucking underestimating them, which is good for us. But it's
everything gone.
Yeah, but it is one of those things where it's like, I remember every time I hit this, I'm like, what about the guards? And then it's like, I don't think it ever spells it out, but it's like, oh, he must have pulled...
Jonas says it in the previous subchapter. He talks to him and tells him to pull the guards back to Hanging Rock.
Okay.
It was in one of my subchapters, so
Okay.
that's why
I'm just
remember.
forgetting.
Yeah.
So it is
No, he tells him, he's like, yeah, pull him back. They're jugged. We got him.
fucking idiot, man.
Yeah. And we find out why in the next subchapter.
It's like the line in the new Superman movie. Don't celebrate till the alien's off the board.
Yep.
Like, don't celebrate until they're fucking
Yeah.
ash in the wind. That's when
They're not?
That's when I would stop being cautious if I'm Jonas, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My note here, I believe Roland when he says Citgo is more spooky. Graveyards have never freaked me out, even when I was little, but Citgo would be spooky.
Did you ever hold your breath driving by the
Nope.
graveyards? Oh, okay.
I didn't hear that till I was an adult.
Oh, really?
Nope. And so it's just like, I grew up with a cemetery, not next door, but
Yeah.
within biking distance.
Yeah.
And I was told not to go there because it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
You know, don't go riding your bike through a graveyard. You know, that's not respectful, especially on the grass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I rode past it.
Don't
you know?
go and have sex with someone on your dad's grave.
No.
What was that? Mary Shelley, right? Yeah. That wrote Frankenstein that lost her virginity on her dad's grave.
Jesus Christ. That's one small step away from my nightmare. So.
What, werewolf entering the picture?
No, the story that
Oh,
shook
yeah.
yeah. Hayden knows what we're talking about, but I'm not getting into that on this show.
Yeah, that's probably even a
That's-
little too blue
That's
for
that's a little too far for this show. Yeah.
So yeah, again, especially for them in our world, oil places like this are routine. But for this world, they're relics of a long dead world. So they're neither normal nor as understood. So like, but again, even for us, it might be creepy at night to be at like an oil derrick or whatever. But like, we have a familiarity with them at least. For them, like
But it's abandoned. But it's abandoned places. That's scary.
There's that too, but-
Graveyards are supposed to be empty.
Yeah.
At night, there's nothing there. You know, that's why it's fine to go there and have a midnight picnic and with a Ouija board. There's nothing there. So, but
David said I'm going to reread Frankenstein.
but if you go to an abandoned amusement park, we mentioned this one earlier.
Yeah.
Abandoned amusement park, abandoned circuses.
So-
there is an inherent creepiness there when something is abandoned, and not to mention, man, if you go somewhere where you're not supposed to be and everything like that,
Yeah.
you don't want it to be loud.
Yeah.
You want to be able to hear. You want to be able to know what's
To
going on.
hear the clicking of the werewolf feet coming towards
the,
you.
The claws coming
Yeah.
across the. Ooh, fuck,
No-
dude! There's a scene. There's a book that I love from Dean Koontz. It's the only book from Dean Koontz that I reread from my days before Stephen King. There's a beastie in it that has its claws walking across like linoleum and tile, and it clicks it, like you just said, like click, click,
Yeah.
click, click, and to draw people to.
Yeah.
What was that noise? You know, like
Yeah.
it like baits them. Oh,
So,
you creep me
so
out.
you're talking about the abandoned stuff.
Yeah.
You know what would be worse than the cemetery in the middle of the night is one that had someone in it.
Oh yeah, you're like
'Cause
you,
it's
go,
out of-
you walk into the cemetery and then you see someone about 30 feet away.
Yeah, because it's like
Hey, he's not
again
supposed to be
a
here.
Simpsons. You know, when Marge looks out the window, she's like, "There's something so unwholesome about flying a kite at night." And then Bart's out there flying a kite in the middle of the night. Hello,
Yeah.
mother. Like it's the same thing. Someone in single person in a cemetery during the day, not a big deal.
No,
you know what's going on
They're
there.
visiting.
But if that's now at 3 a.m., that is a whole different thing there.
Right.
That's just not.
we know
right.
it's not a ghost though, because you know that doesn't exist, right, Hayden? Right, Hayden?
David says one thing creepier would be an abandoned amusement park except for one child. Now they're
Oh,
again,
yes,
yeah.
exactly what Tad's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if the child's like crab walking.
David is on the level. He is on point today.
Hayden, oh my God, David, that's terrifying.
That's kind of funny. My wife and daughter are in an amusement park right now. So,
Is it an abandoned music park?
unfortunately, no.
Hopefully, there's at least a clown there, for your
Not-
wife's sake.
Not until October. So, going on, Roland led them into an active area, talking about active derricks, past signs that read, "How's your hard hat?" and "We produce oil. We refine safety." Direct quotes from the book. They stopped at the foot of a working derrick that was grinding so loudly that Roland had to shout in order to be heard, asking Shimi to give him a couple of big bangers. Shimi handed them over. Roland grabbed Bert by the arm and pulled him forward. There was a rusty fence around the derrick, and when the two tried to climb it, the links snapped like old bones. There's a fun sound, snap like old bones.
Yeah, it sounds like celery.
Yeah. Or like when you bite a really big carrot. Yeah.
Yeah.
They looked at each other with nervousness and amusement. Susan says to be careful, and Roland saw she didn't look frightened, only excited and alert. He grinned, pulled her close, kissed her earlobe, and whispered to be ready to run. If we do this right, there's going to be a new candle here, a hellacious big one. They ducked under the strut of the derrick, wincing at the noise, and Roland couldn't help but marvel. They hadn't torn themselves apart years ago. Up close, he could see a gigantic turning shaft of some kind, and it was gleaming with oil that must have was supplied by automated jets. There was a strong, gassy smell. Cuthbert shouts, "Giant farts." Roland can't hear him, and Cuthbert says, "Never mind." My note here, another indication that this is our world, but in future, signs about hard hats and safety. That's very much something from our world.
Yeah, for sure. And my answer, though, is not our world exactly. It crosses over with our world, but there's enough different. But I think it's a twinner of our world. But it isn't like, because I remember early on, I used to believe that it was actually like a post-apocalyptic our world. This is like our world ended, and this is like 1,000 or 2,000 years later.
Right.
But after having read it multiple times now, it really dawned on me things like Old Star and Old Mother, as well as the moon that's changing, like, almost faces, to the point where our moon always rotates with the Earth, to where it's like you always see the same side. Now, if it rotated differently and there was like different seasons had different like faces of the moon, so I think there's enough differences. Like, but again, it's a twinner of our world, and there's obviously some fucking connections. We've seen the Bible, we've seen the Beatles, like the ZZ Top,
Amco, Chevron.
Yeah, exactly. A Citgo is an oil company.
Yeah.
So, not our world, but you're not wrong in terms of the Venn diagram. Our world and this world have a number of crossovers.
Exactly.
On it, which I think is some of the most fascinating shit too.
I know,
I love
right?
it because it's like, I don't know. I feel like it almost makes it more intriguing than if it were just entirely this unique world. Like the fact that it has like, and especially like connections. Like it's not just like vague connections like Lord of the Rings. You think there's like certain things where it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, we know what tobacco is, we know what breakfast is. No, it's like things like, oh, they're singing fucking Hey Jude by the Beatles. Like,
yeah,
what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's not, oh, they're grilling up some nice crispy bacon. Well, we have bacon. That's,
yeah.
No, it's like, yeah, hey, we're grilling up a bar, what is it, bar S or bar 5 bacon. It's like, wait a minute, I've eaten that bacon. You know, like I have some of that in my fridge at home. Like, holy shit, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's where it's like the differences at the beginning of this book. Nazala, the
Takuro.
Kansas City Monarchs, and the Takuro Spirit.
Yeah.
So,
indeed.
And then, of course, also, the Superflu.
God damn it, Hayden. Uruks know what menus are. It's the worst fucking line in the entire fucking series of movies, man.
Urukai.
Dumbest fucking shit. Hate it so much. The fact that it's so loud, you have to shout again, something that's so not really unheard of in our world, but aside from gunfire, this world wouldn't experience that kind of noise.
They don't know what a concert is.
No, concert. I mean, so much. A jackhammer's like so much of our world that is almost mundane. That doesn't exist in this world. So, like, again, except for gunfire, but even gunfire, like, there's like a high and low with gunfire. Like the sustained noise that, like, a train's moving by you and you're walking by a path that a full fucking freight train going 70 miles an hour is blowing by. That's going to be fucking loud and sustained.
You hear the wheels on the tracks and everything.
Yeah.
The rumble of the ground and everything.
Yeah. So I think that like it's normal for us, but for these guys, like this is a kind of noise they've probably never experienced before. I know down the road, Roland will. We know Shardick's alarm that we've already previously seen, or some of the Blaine stuff is super loud. But that's so long in Roland's future. It's just something that I like to point out because it's easy for us to just overlook something where it's like, oh yeah, I've been to a concert. I know what 2 hours of like 150, 60 decibels of noise sounds like. Like, that's normal. That's whatever. For them, it's not, though.
It's the exact same point of what we were talking about earlier with Susan, is like, what has she experienced human on human violence? This is the same thing. The loudest they've probably experienced is either gunshots or fireworks. I think that's about. Oh yeah. I think that's about the loudest things that they've ever experienced.
But those are very irregular, to where there'll be high and low points. Like, it's not sustained noise.
It's boom.
Yeah.
Or bang.
Yeah.
It's not a concert. It's not like you said, a train going past. Or have you ever been next to a freeway and just heard the cars going past and how loud it is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the neighborhood I grew up in was right next to Bangor Highway.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, it's not a full-on freeway, but, like, yeah, there was just...
cars were going 50 miles an hour,
Yeah, there was a noise that comes along with that. And there was
there was noise-canceling walls.
There's noise-canceling walls, but even with that, there was, like, a thrumming sound that was there that's just... It's undeniable.
And it's worse when it's not rush hour, but it's busy.
In fact,
like everyone's going the right speed limit, but it's not congested to where it's slowing down. So you just have
I mean, hell, Hayden and I, when we lived near the cemetery, we were right by I-15.
That's definitely a freeway.
Yeah.
That's the freeway.
So when we go out and have like a cigar out in the back and stuff, like you'd hear like that thrum of the freeway.
It's one of those things that for a lot of people, when they get outside of the city for the first time, if they've grown up in a city and never been out, when they get out into the wild, into the dark woods and stuff like that, they're just like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
Something's wrong. And it's like, yeah, you're missing the sounds of the city.
Yeah.
And when I go down to visit my in-laws down there, like you said, my wife grew up in a small town. When I get down there, there's times where it's like, oh, I forgot something in the car. And I walk out and I'm just like,
yeah,
it's quiet.
Yeah, too quiet.
Too quiet.
And it's really dark, so a beastie can be right out in the darkness. And
I don't know.
So
there's a street light outside their house. No.
David says, what's the dumbest line in the series? So that's in the Lord of the Rings series when the fucking Uruk-hai say meat's back on the menu.
Yeah, he cuts the one's head off. Meat's back on the menu, boys.
Dumbest fucking line. It's just...
That is a soundbite we're going to get, and what the soundbite means is that it's the dumbest thing ever.
I mean, we do have...
we do, yeah.
Pam.
That one.
That's just stupid.
Yeah, we already have one. Never mind.
All right, what do you got note-wise here?
It's your turn.
No, I just said the loudest... Did you didn't get your note.
Oh, okay, I see. I scrolled down too soon. It is a good point by Roland. Why isn't the machine broken yet? I don't know much about oil derricks, but I doubt they would be able to last years, let alone hundreds of years.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of self-lubricating, so it kind of makes sense to me that it still works. The vapors of or residual oil that's coming out, it almost like self-lubricates.
Sure.
So, I don't know. Like, we work in a machine shop. Like, we have, like, the coolant busters and stuff now. But back in the old days, that just floated in the air, and it was just... There was just a film to everything,
yep.
And it's just like so. I think you'd have the same thing, with something like this. So with that, it almost like self lubricates, which would probably help it last longer for sure.
I honestly,
but also a bunch are broken down, right? Because wasn't there 19 to 20 something oil derricks? But like she ends up telling Roland early in the story, like
7 work.
How many still work?
Yeah.
So they have been breaking down for sure.
No,
so
some have broken, but it's just fascinating to me that some still work. So
Baraki, snake emoji, self lubricating.
Oh God.
Yes.
Disgusting.
You guys are vile.
Oh,
no, I know. Hayden feels.
Hayden says the hum of late night truckers provides a calm ambiance while we're drawing on the Latin leaf.
I like it.
Indeed.
And then my last note here is, Cuthbert never changed. Smells like giant farts.
He's the best.
I know,
I really
I love Cuthbert.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So going on, they worked their way through until they were directly under the derrick. Ahead was a shaft at the end had a piston turning steadily, shedding oily teardrops down its smooth sides. Beside it was a curved pipe, almost surely an overflow pipe. He pointed at it, and Cuthbert nodded. Shouting was no good here. It was too loud. He pulled Cuthbert close and put his mouth right to his ear. He held up a big bang in front of Cuthbert's eyes. Light it and run. I will hold it. This is as much for me as it is for you. I want a clear path back through the machinery. Got it? Cuthbert nodded against Roland's lips. Then he turned the gunslinger's head so he could speak in the same fashion. What if there is enough gas enough gas to light the air on fire? Roland stepped back and put his palm up in a "how do I know" gesture. Cuthbert laughed and took out his box of matches that he had scooped from Avery's desk as they had left. He asked if Roland was ready with his eyebrows, and Roland nodded.
Speaking of lubing itself.
Oh, God. Just stop.
No, because it says shedding oily teardrops down
I know, but
down the smooth
Baraki's
sides.
comment in the chat.
No, but like that's the point. It's like I said it and then it was funny. The next section down, like it actually mentions like oil leaking out. And it's like there's self-lubricating there.
Gross.
R.I.P. Ermont.
No. It's the worst. Roland is smart here. If Cooper stays with him, they would run into each other and die in the explosion. They'd get in each other's way trying to escape. That's why, in the case of an emergency, form a nice orderly line and exit calmly, not running,
Don't want it to be a Who concert.
Yeah. Damn.
Too soon? You'd have to coordinate this right. This is going to be a big boomer, as Jar Jar says.
A big boomer.
Yeah. Also, Roland is not trying to be funny, but his I don't know is unintentionally funny to me.
That's how most of Roland is.
But he doesn't know it's funny, right? He's not trying to be funny because he's incapable of it.
Well, he can't say I don't know, so he just no.
No, but even if it's like Roland. That's his ultimate thing.
Yep.
He's never. Well, I'm not gonna say never because we've actually saw a few in the last book where he was actually
just make a joke.
Yeah, but generally speaking, Roland is only ever funny on accident. So.
David says self-lubricating late-night truckers. I like this episode. I just want to note that King calls Roland the gunslinger. There.
Oh yeah, did we cover? Okay, yeah, we did get through all our notes. All right. I mean, yeah, Prentice gunslinger.
No, gunslinger.
Prentice gunslinger.
No,
it's like Master Jedi for Anakin when he was never a master. He's
not a Master Jedi. He's a Jedi Knight.
He gets called Master all the time.
Yeah. And people correct him all the time.
No.
Oh, and he's no master. He's just on the council.
Ahsoka calls him it. Like Master Jedi is just like a standard term that gets thrown out there too much.
But not a master in rank, though. Master to an apprentice, yes.
I know.
But not master rank. And Padme corrects it in episode 2. Oh, and he's no master. He's still a Padawan.
she says he's not a Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, is I think that's incorrect, too, because Padawans are Jedi, too, just like a apprentice gunslinger is an apprentice.
What does she know? She's a politician. Going on. The wind was blowing hard, but under the derrick, the surrounding machinery cut it off so much that the flame rose straight. Roland held out the big banger and had a painful memory of his mother, how much she had hated them. She'd always thought he would lose a finger or an eye. Cuthbert tapped his chest above his heart and kissed his palm in the universal gesture of good luck. He lit the big banger, and it began to sputter. Bert turned and pretended to bang off a covered block of machinery. That was Bert, Roland thought. He would joke on the gallows. And then dash back the short corridor they'd used to get there. And again, my note, never change Bert. And Roland held the firework as long as he dared and then lobbed it into the overflow pipe. He winced as he turned away, half expecting it to explode the second it entered the pipe. It didn't, and he ran. As he came out of the machinery, he saw Cuthbert standing just outside the broken piece of fencing. Roland flapped both of his hands at him. Go, you idiot, go! And then the world blew up behind him. The sound was a deep, belching thud that shoved his eardrums inward and sucked the breath from his throat. The ground began to roll like he was on a boat under his feet. A large, warm hand planted itself into the center of his back and pushed him forward. He thought he ran with it for a step or two, maybe 3, and then he was lifted off his feet and hurled at the fence. Cuthbert was no longer standing. He was sprawled on his back, staring up at something behind Roland, his eyes wide and wondering. Roland could see all this clearly, as Citgo was now bright as in full daylight. They had lit their own reaping bonfire and was bigger than anything the town could ever hope for. He skidded on his knees next to Cuthbert and grabbed him under one arm, and behind them came a vast, ripping roar. Then chunks of metal began to fall around them. They both got up and ran for where Elan stood in front of Susan and Shimi, trying to protect them. I've always loved the description that night becomes day.
Yeah.
Like it lit up the sky so much that it appeared that it was daylight. I've only experienced that like once in my life.
Yeah.
So it's just like it is awe-inspiring, and so I have always loved that description.
Yeah, like Trinity. Turning night to day. Trinity test?
Oh, okay. My mind went to the Matrix. I was like, what?
Yeah, also, they're Roland and Cuthbert here turning this story into a Michael Bay film.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah. Also, Roland knows the best way to look badass is having things blow up behind you. Very extra, Roland.
Yeah, God, what a prima donna, right? I love Elan blocking Susan and Shimi. It's just so wholesome that he steps in front of them when it explodes, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that, again, just fits him.
It does, right?
Yeah. I think any of them would have done it.
I was about to say the same thing. Cuthbert would have done the same thing.
But it fits him a lot more, I think.
Absolutely. Roland glanced over his shoulder and saw the remains of the derrick. Only half of it still stood. The remains all glowed red like a heated horseshoe. Around a flaring yellow torch that ran perhaps 150 feet into the sky. It was a start, and Roland didn't know how many other derricks they could fire before folks from town began to arrive, but he wanted as many as they could get. Blowing up the tankers at Hanging Rock was only half the job. The source for Farson had to be cut off. And then, pausing here, my note, 150 feet in the air, that is a massive column of fire.
Yeah. My note, indeed, and again, as amazing as it is for our world, it is beyond comprehension for theirs.
I think the biggest fire they've ever seen is a bonfire on Reap Night, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at something that's 6 times that size, maybe. We were like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Another example of Roland thinking like a veteran gunslinger, not just the tankers, but the source as well.
Yeah. Yeah. More important, really.
Because,
you know, you could probably always find new tankers somewhere in this world. So,
but you can't find a source of oil.
Yeah.
Exactly. Further firecrackers were not necessary. There was a network of interconnected pipes under the oil patch, most filled with natural gas that had leaked through decaying seals. Roland and Cuthbert had no more reached the others when there was another explosion. A few moments later, another derrick exploded. This one ripped the decaying ironwork from the concrete support pillars like a tooth pulled from a decayed gum. There's a happy little image for you, just a tooth being pulled.
It's always better to use an ice skate.
Absolutely.
In my experience.
Absolutely. Way better than a pair of pliers. It rose 70 feet in...
Pliers are good for fingernails.
Oh, right. Getting the toothpicks out that you've jammed in there accidentally. So
Hayden says stop. Also, David gave some context. That's the height of a 15-story building.
good Lord.
So
That is pretty tall.
Yeah, I mean, most of our childhood, there weren't that many buildings in this entire fucking valley that were that tall.
No.
So
I think we have 4 downtown is all.
it's been getting more in the last decade or so. You know, Salt Lake's certainly growing, but yeah, as a kid, there weren't that many buildings that were that tall in this entire fucking state. So
I think I've been in a building that tall maybe 3 times in my life.
How many in this state? Any?
I think 1.
Okay.
There's when I was a member of the LDS church, there's a church building downtown that has I think a museum at the bottom or the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a deck up top.
Yeah.
So
that's good context there.
Yeah. Let's see where.
Decaying tooth.
Decaying tooth. That's what it was. Thank you. It rose 70 feet in the spewing sparks. It was spewing sparks and flames everywhere and came crashing back down. Another and another derrick blew. The 5 young people stood watching the explosion, shielding their eyes from the brightness. Now the oil patch looked like a birthday cake, and the heat baking towards them was enormous. Gods be kind, Alan said. Roland realized if they lingered any longer, they would pop like corn. Also, they needed to consider the horses. They were well away from the explosions, but no guarantee that something around them wouldn't blow. He saw 2 derricks that weren't working had blown. The horses would also be terrified. Hell, he was terrified. Come on, he shouted, and they ran for the horses in the yellow-orange brilliance. That's the end of the subchapter there. Real fast, before we do our notes, I just want to notate here. There's a fire raging in a couple places. I know of one in Pennsylvania where it's the coal fire for the coal mine.
Yeah.
It still burns. And then there's one in Russia that's constantly on. It's a hole that's constantly on fire.
Yeah, the gates of hell.
Yes, that one. Do you think this would be one for them? Do you think
it'll burn for a while?
You think it's going to burn for years, right?
It could.
I've never thought about that until reading through this right here, that they may have just created another landmark for mages.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Also, my note, it's going up like a brick of firecrackers. Well, that was easy.
Right? Like, holy cow.
Also, Hayden did say stop and no to our earlier comments there. And Agmorphy says, I hate it when that happens.
Is it stop no or no stop? So he wants us to keep going. Instructions unclear. We'll keep talking about fingernails being pulled off.
Indeed. Or ice skate teeth.
Ooh, paper cuts in between the
webbing of the
fingers. Yeah. So my note here, it is mesmerizing watching explosions on my phone TV. Like when they do a controlled demolition of a casino in Vegas or something like that. But also the accidental ones are just so much worse for me. Like the Beirut one, I've probably watched every single angle of the Beirut one, and I think you were the one that sent me
that Beirut thing, dude. I think there's at least 200 or plus videos. So,
I think you sent me a video about a year or so after it happened. You're like, dude, check this out, because you knew I would find it fascinating. It's like what was it, like an 8-9 minute video, and it had 50 to 60 different views of it.
Yeah.
There's one where it's like an animal shelter that's like 6 miles away from it.
Yeah.
And everything like that. So,
it's wild.
Or the fireworks, warehouses or fertilizer plants that blow up.
I always love those.
Oh,
too.
yeah. To be that close to that many explosions and now and not know where it could happen next, I'd be getting the hell out of there too.
Yeah.
Because like Roland said, there were derricks blowing up that weren't working. So those pipes under the ground, you have no idea where those... There could be an exhaust over there by the horses, and boosh, there goes your horses.
Only if Krennic designed it.
That's
the
true.
derricks. My last note here, and as we will see in the next subchapter, but it's obvious here, now Jonas and the Coffin Hunters are going to know that the game is on.
Yeah, they're going to know that they're out of prison.
So, yeah, indeed. So, let's jump over to the last subchapter here. We got we got about 13 or so minutes left. So, yeah, another long subchapter. So, at first, Jonas thought it was in his head, and the explosions were part of their lovemaking. That was wrong, and he and Coral didn't make love anymore. Then donkeys did sums. He'd been with passionate women before, one who took you into a kind of oven place and held you there, but he had never been with one that had such powerful harmony with him in bed. He had always been a man who took sex when it came and forgot about it when it didn't. But it was Coral. But with Coral, he only wanted to take and take and take. They made love like cats or ferrets, twisting, hissing, and clawing. They even bit and cursed at each other. Jesus. Bunch of feral animals here. These, both of them are a little older too, 50s or so. It's like, yeah, I guess that's not that old for us anymore, right? We're getting there. So King is just laying it on thick here.
Oh, yeah.
But then again, it's not Reap yet, so they are breaking the rules.
How dare they?
Yeah, indeed. They should be waiting another 24 hours before any hanky-panky.
I mean, it could officially be Reap morning for all we know, but...
I mean, maybe, but probably not, knowing them. I think we actually were given a one line at one point about Jonas where he didn't give a fuck about the whole ban on sex. So, yeah, that seems about right for him.
And to be fair, it is not a universal ban. It's more of like a custom.
A custom, for sure. So tonight had been a meeting of the Horsemen's Association, which had pretty much become the Farson Association these days. Jonas had brought them up to speed and answered their idiotic questions and made sure they knew what they were doing the next day. With that done, he had checked on Rhea, who had been installed in Reimer's old suite. She had not even noticed Jonas peeking in on her. She sat in his high-ceilinged, book-lined study behind his desk in his upholstered chair, looking as out of place as a whore's blossom on a church altar. The ball sat on the desk. She passed her hand over it while muttering under her breath, but the ball remained dark. So no more question about the Horsemen's Association's allegiances. They are all in on it.
100% confirmed. If there was any doubt, it is gone.
Yeah, that removed all doubt. King paints a great picture here of Reimer's office and how Rhea looks in it. Just he's an artist.
It's such a creepy image. Her in this nice, comfy office instead of the witch's hut is just... Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No.
Plus, he doesn't really mention the odor there, but...
God, it's got to be foul.
The odor's been mentioned quite a bit with her, so,
yeah. You walk into a nice, clean room and you smell that. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is encouraging that the ball is dark. That is something that could really fuck Susan and our boys royally right now if that were working. So Jonas locked her in and went to Coral, who led him to her dead brother's bed, the bed that he would have taken Susan to had things gone differently. He had been approaching climax in the first Derek Blue. He thought that she was really good, and he had never had a woman like... And then his thought was interrupted by two more quick explosions in rapid succession, and Coral froze, and she said, "Citgo," and he agreed, but he did not stop. They had reached that point when it was impossible to stop, even under threat of death. 2 minutes later, he strode naked to the balcony. Coral followed naked as well. Coral complained about the interruption, saying that she could have came 3 more times. So there's a fun one for you. Jonas ignored her. Northwest, the moonlit countryside was dark except for Citgo, where there was a bright core of yellow light, and it was spreading. More explosions. His mind darkened. That feeling that had been there since Dearborn recognized him for what he was. Having sex with Coral dimmed it, but now looking on the good man's oil reserve going up in smoke, it came back with a debilitating intensity. Roland's words echoed in his head, and he had known that, but having it said, he could not stop thinking about it. He cursed Dearborn and wondered where they were at. In Avery's jail? He thought not anymore.
Yep.
So fucking in the bed of the mayor is some ruthless shit.
Dude, that's her murdered brother, that she had played a part in it, and she's so heartless. This just shows how truly heartless she is.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, we kind of got a little bit of hint of that with the meeting with Latigo, where she's like, well, they're going to be dead.
Yeah.
He's going to be dead with my brother. My brother has to join him,
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, she's kind of cold. But no, here you see, like, she is flat out heartless.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Also, Agamorphy says "Horse Blossom" on a whore's altar and gives it an emoji there. Likes that. That is a good one. Good turn of phrase from King. So the darkness with the fire in the distance reminds me of HBO's Chernobyl or the Simpsons movie. What's that ominous glow?
It reminds me of the wildfires that we've had, the
Yeah.
really bad wildfires over the last, like 5-7 years.
Yeah.
That's what I imagine is I see those pictures of, like, the mountains are on fire at night. It's like,
Yeah. There was one point that where my family had a cabin back in the day. There was a wildfire there, and my grandpa ended up to leave, had to drive essentially through a fire on both sides.
Yeah.
And it ended up melting like the trim off of his vehicle.
yeah,
That's how
that's crazy.
yeah, wild stuff. Also cool to see internally just how bad Roland's line got to him. And maybe we can give him some credit and say that's why he's being so stupid and not leaving a couple dumb fucked guards out there, even though the boys are in jail.
Yeah.
Maybe the line is still affecting him, which means that Roland gets some credit here.
Yeah,
So-
he did that.
Fresh explosions ripped into the night. Below, men who had been running and shouting this morning in the light of the assassinations did so again. So I will pause to just say I actually missed this on my notes, but it says this morning. So yeah, we've not crossed.
Have not crossed
The barrier yet.
the date line.
So it is still not reaping. It is still Reap Eve. Coral said it was the biggest Reap firework ever. Before Jonas could respond, there was a loud banging on the door and it opened a second later, and Clay came in wearing nothing but jeans. He reported the bad news from town. Dearborn and the other two and more explosions cut him off. The light was now deep orange as it flew into the sky. Clay moved between the two naked people, unmindful of their nudity, and looked mesmerized at the fire. Jonas asked how they got away and asked if Clay or Avery knew, and Clay said that Avery was dead along with the deputy that was with him. He then asked Jonas what was happening. Coral said the explosions were their boys and said it didn't take them long to start their own Reap party. Jonas wondered how much heart they had and if that was if they were done causing trouble or if they were just getting started. I would just pause again to say, are you a fucking idiot?
We know that we know.
But we know, but
come on,
are you
Jonas.
really gonna like just hope that like, well, that was all they wanted to do? No, you
And now they're
fucking
gonna
moron.
and now they're gonna ride for Gilead.
No, my God, dude. He once again wanted to be out of here, out of Seafront, out of Hanbury, out of Magus. Suddenly, more than anything, he wanted to be miles and wheels away. He had moved out from behind his hillock and now felt horribly exposed.
Dude, I gotta stop here. I before you read your note, I gotta tell you. I see what you're saying with Jonas, like you're calling him an idiot and what the fuck is he doing and stuff like that. But I know that when you want to be somewhere else, your mind's not all there.
No, I know.
I think that's what's really happening here with him, because I don't know if you say this or if it's just something I thought when I was doing my notes here after you did yours. I don't think that it's your last note there. I'll wait till after that.
Yeah, so man, the average person not in on the conspiracy must not know what the fuck's going on. Day starts with the assassination, now ends up with an apocalyptic explosion, especially for this world.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. This is a Reap they will never forget. It isn't even Reap yet. It's the day before Reap still. Like you said, that it mentioned that it hadn't crossed the line.
Yeah.
So, and like we talked about in my last subchapter, this is probably going to be a thing that's going to be present for years.
Yeah.
Like, hey, don't go out to Citgo. It's on fire, kind of thing.
Yeah. And then good to see Jonas not only feeling anxious, but feeling that he wants to be far away and he feels exposed. Really feels like he's been outplaying Roland for hundreds of pages now. So now to finally have the shoe on the other foot is just so fucking nice.
I know.
It feels good, man, because we've been stressing here for at least 100 pages, if not 150
Is he
or
just going
more.
to get the better of them?
So yeah, it's just I'm just glad to finally see the stress. Like we haven't seen him that stressed since the Showdown with Traveler's Rest. So it's encouraging. So he called to Clay, who responded, but was clearly still mystified by Citgo's inferno. He grabbed him by the shoulders and turned him toward himself. Jonas felt his own mind picking up speed. He welcomed the feeling. The dark sense of fatalism and dread vanished. He asked Clay how many men were here. Clay said 30, 35, maybe. Jonas asked how many were armed. Clay clarified by asking with guns. Clay said maybe a dozen, if you're counting the guns likely to work. So there's our thought there.
Yep.
Jonas asked if the Horsemen's Association was still all here. Clay said that he thought so. So there we go. It also sounds like they're all leaving with them. Jonas told him to get Langell and Renfrew, and at least they would not need to be woken up. They'd be awake by now, and they were right down there in the courtyard. He told him to tell Renfrew to put together an advance party or armed men 8 to 10, and he'd take another 5. and he told him to have Rhea's cart harnessed to a strong pony, and that if the pony died before Hanging Rock, Miguel would be wearing his balls as earplugs. Coral laughed at this, and Clay looked at her as he did and had a double take at her breasts. So,
she's naked.
yeah, I get the almost hypnotized by this. This is not a world of gas and oil like ours, so a fire like this is likely something that's never been seen in a millennia.
We've talked about that, yeah.
So, yeah.
I talked about it in my section being mesmerized by explosion, but it has to be so much worse for them.
Yeah, it's just so unreal.
Yeah.
Jonas is shaking the cobwebs free. That's not good. So they have 35 with a dozen armed. That's good. Artette was expecting up to 50.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a range, but their upper limit was like there may be 50 people we have to fight.
But remember, that's just here. That's not what it's out at Hanging Rock.
Yeah, but that's the most direct. And they're getting Rhea ready, so it seems like the plan is not to go get the boys, but potentially to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Clay's double take on Coral's breast is always funny to me.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Because, like, we're men.
Yeah,
There's it's what it is. It's like every so often, like on Reddit, like a girl will be like, do men like small boobs or whatever? And it's like every comment's usually like, we like boobs.
Are you kidding?
Yes, like, come on. So Jonas asked where Roy was. Clay says he was on the third floor with some serving maid. Oops, I just screwed something up there. Jonas said to kick him out and put him on getting Rhea ready. Clay asked if they were where they were or if they were going. Jonas said as soon as they can. The two of them first, Renfrew and Lengel's men behind. He told Clay to make sure Renfrew was with them. He had sand in his craw. Clay asked about the horses on the drop, and Jonas exploded at him, saying, forget about the horses, and another blast from Citgo. Jonas could not see smoke or smell the oil burning. The wind was carrying that the other direction, away from town. Clay tried to protest, but Jonas cut him off, telling him to do as he says. Jonas saw his priorities in clear order, and the horses were at the very bottom. Farsi could find horses anywhere. Next up the list was the tankers. They were critical because the source was now gone. Lose those, and they could forget going home. Top of the list was the wizard's glass. It was the only irreplaceable item. If it was broken, let it be broken in the possession of Latigo, not Eldred Jonas. He told Clay to get moving and to pay rides with Lengil's men. Clay would ride with Jonas. Coral asked about her, and Jonas said he had not forgotten about her. And then she groped his naked penis, not caring about Clay sitting there looking at them.
Jesus.
And that's the end of the subchapter. So the priorities list makes total sense. To me, like that follows exactly the way you would suspect it would.
Yeah.
So
it's just funny to me that the horses that started rolling suspecting something was off here in Magus is at the bottom of the list.
Yeah,
It's kind of interesting that that's what started it all. How many horses are down there? How many do you see? And then nope, not even top 3.
yeah. And then, man, what a spot to end the episode. The table is set.
Here we go.
So, and that does bring me. I did want to check where we're at here at the end now. For the whole book, we're 78% of the way through, and for the Roland story, we're 85% of the way through.
Oh,
so
last 15%.
Yeah, we are getting there. So let's go ahead. We can we're almost out of time, but we can have time for your thought for the spoiler section.
Okay.
So,
warning, spoilers ahead. Warning, spoilers ahead. Warning, spoilers ahead.
all right.
Okay, it's just interesting. There was a spot there where Roland was talking about Cuthbert having gallows humor when they were about to light the derrick, and he bounces off the machinery. And I was just like, Cuthbert never changed. But then I wrote a note in a different color because I'm like, Tad, fact check me on this. Roland's already said that Cuthbert dies laughing at Jericho Hill, right? Tad looked it up.
I would have said a yes, like as my knee-jerk reaction, but I always check because reading the whole series, it's hard to sometimes put things in context.
Yeah.
And I searched everywhere I could, and from what I found, it doesn't get mentioned until the 6th book.
That's crazy to me.
So,
I just wanted to bring that up.
Not
Just
till
like,
Song of Susanna.
both of us were like, yeah, it's been mentioned that he dies laughing and stuff like that. And nope.
Yeah, and then it's covered in the comics as well. But yeah, the first time it seems that it's mentioned by King is not till Song of Susanna. So that is wild. And then Hayden says, breasts, and Agmorphy says, I hope Flanagan captures the boob moments.
Yeah.
Although, with Coral, I don't know if we actually want that to be fulfilled or not, because, I don't know, Coral has never come off as the most attractive woman. Like, I don't think this is going to be Flanagan's wife playing Coral Thorin, so...
It could be.
I mean, maybe, but
I
I don't know, man. The way she's described, I don't find her necessarily. I don't see her as the most attractive woman the way that King described her throughout this book. So, but yeah, that is it for this episode. We'll be back next week. Remember, for a roundtable, because we moved an episode due to my birthday vacation upcoming. So we will be back in a week for our next roundtable, and then of course the next book club will be a little bit of a jump away, because that will be the 6th for our first episode, and then the 27th for the next book club. So it is a little shy of a month away for our next book club. So let's go ahead and hit the outro stuff real quick. If you want to subscribe to us, you can find us on any podcasting service of your choice. You can stream us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or Audible. Join us for the live streams over here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. And of course, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications, because YouTube will destroy you if you don't say that. Then if you want to find the show notes, you do that at darktowerpalaver.com. If you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. And if you want to contact the show, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
The best way is email at show@darktowerpalaver.com. Find us on Threads and Instagram. It's Dark Tower Palaver, all one word. And then we're on Blue Sky at darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. And we're on the Twitter at Dark Tower Pod. That's at Dark Tower POD. And we're on Facebook, facebook.com/Dark Tower Palaver. And pick up some merch, tpublic.com/user/Dark Tower Palaver.
Indeed. And the poll did close with Cordelia taking 66% of the vote on who is worse, and Rhea taking 33%. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting conversation to be had for sure. But we will, on the podcast side, we will sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
Boy.
All right, everyone in the chat, thank you all for joining us. It's been a hoot for sure. It's always fun to have you all as part of the conversation. All the snake emojis and all the fun stuff here. Someone even got Peter. Who was it? Agamorphy that got you, or was it Baraki? Baraki, self lubricating snake emoji there. Gotta love that. Got the hit on you before I even did. That was great.
And then Baraki also threw a snake at me. Hucks a snake at Peter, and I said, "No, throw a snake."
You got to make sure you catch it and see if it's slimy or not.
No, I don't.
See if it's.
I'm going to be like Bush and just duck the shoe.
See if it's visited the Box Canyon. All right. On that note, see you guys.
Disgusting.